Done. All the social media set up and software testing is complete. Electronic payment system's ready. It's all working, Julian. Where to go, buddy?
Fucking away, Bubs. You know what? You are the fucking man, buddy.
Oh, I know I'm the fucking man. I mean, I honestly don't think there's a snowball's chance of fucking hell this business is gonna work, but I did my best. Here we go.
Electricians, dishwashers, floor cleaners, lawyers, doctors, fucking politicians, CBC employees, principals, people that paint the lawns and the fucking roads. Get stoned, it'll be fun, get to work.
tie it into the whole Gladio fifth column.
Oh, we tying it in, dog. We tying it in to the Illuminati, to beast men, to dog men, even.
Dog
We're tying it. We're tying it all together in a little knot. Welcome to the Yakov stream with the Skinwalker gang, everybody.
Get knotted.
I am here with Brad. Brad's here.
What's up? Wait, are we
Welcome
doing
to-
content? I retired.
Yeah, no, we're doing, but this is the 40K podcast now, so it's easy.
Can I show everyone what I got from China? Everyone on the YouTubes or whatever?
All right, well, do your thing.
Yeah, no,
Wad is also
yo.
here.
You guys got to check this shit out.
Go
Look at
on,
that,
everybody.
dude, gamer dice, dude, RGB dice,
Gamer dice? You serious right
gamer
now?
dice, dude, they're gamer dice.
We got Kay
If
here.
you
Kay is present.
if you got a fucking problem with
Shut
that,
up! Kay is present.
Hello.
Also, we have Jack here.
Hey.
And we have Aussie.
G'day.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Live from 14 hours in the future, Aussie is. I love that. Love that gimmick. Yeah, so we decided we were going to talk about serial killers. I think that was the plan. Everyone's like, yeah, serial killers is a great topic.
Dude.
We always love talking about serial killers, and there's so much to work with. And then I'm literally like, fuck that. I'm doing werewolves. And
Serial killers are fucking boring. Werewolves.
serial killers are fucking boring, exactly. Every time I think about serial killers, I'm like, okay, I'll do the serial killer thing this time. We'll do the thing. But then I'm always like, nah, this is lame, except for that one serial killer who sodomized a bunch of guys with Taft's gun back in like 1850. That was the one good
Carl
serial killer.
Panzeram, my dude. I fucking love Carl. Dude, Carl Panzeram went to Africa and he hired a boat with a couple of like natives, and they took him down on the boat and he kicked him into the crocodile infested waters and watched him get eaten by crocodiles for shits and giggles. Carl Panzeram was that dude.
That's true.
Yeah, that dog. No,
He
dude,
was that
I
guy.
can actually talk on this topic because like a few years ago when I was on another podcast, I read the Serial Killer Files by Harold Schechter.
Gotcha.
I don't know
Go
anything.
on.
I don't know anything about werewolves other than the fact that every time there's a full moon, my dick won't stop being hard.
My dick literally detaches from my body and it runs around the house in circles while I chase it, try to get it back.
All right, hold on. Let's see.
Did you
I'm
cut it
rolling,
off with a
I'm rolling
chainsaw?
deception, and I rolled a 3. I don't think you guys believe that my dick is constantly hard during a full moon.
So where do I just go ham immediately here, or do we talk about serial killers a little bit? That's the question for the
don't
evening.
give a shit.
I can give a kind of a lowdown of Program to Kill a little bit.
Yeah. You hit me with that, Jack. You start us off there.
Okay. So Program to Kill is a book by Todd McGowan, right?
Yeah.
And it's about basically
Dave
how
McGowan.
it's Dave McGowan. Oh fuck, who's Todd
Yeah.
McGowan? God damn it.
Cares?
He was probably in a
Nobody.
shitty gay movie.
It's a book about how basically all the serial killers who you think of as lone wolves are actually parts of satanic cults that were orchestrated by the U.S. government to spread chaos and commit satanic rituals, allegedly. And the whole thing is that they're like they were recruited through the U.S. military for the most part, or through MK Ultra experiments, mind controlling them to then basically just kill on command. But then also that there were these cults that were committing these sacrifices and using the serial killers as kind of their patsies to kind of get away with it. And the main one is Son of Sam, who actually kind of said that this happened, that he was there at all the killings, but he wasn't actually the one performing the murders, that somebody else was doing the murdering and he was just kind of like involved with it. And this connects to Charles Manson, who wasn't involved in any of the killings.
This is a very interesting thing, I think, is that so many of these cases, they start out with a bunch of accomplices, and then there's no accomplices, it's just a serial killer. And it's the same thing that happens now with shooters, how you'll have reports of multiple shooters, then they find one patsy, and it's like every time, and it's the same thing. Every time.
Yeah. So like, yeah, it's basically
what's his name? The Toy Box Killer, David Parker Ray. Like his entire family was involved, but you only know about David Parker Ray.
Yeah, and especially that woman, who his girlfriend got away with it completely. Also, Leonard Lake. Leonard Lake was on this like Leonard Lake is a really interesting case. He built like this whole cabin, like this whole like cabin that was supposed to be like a post-apocalyptic shelter, and he was kidnapping these women and molesting them, and he had a like accomplice who also went to jail, or he went to jail, Charles Ng. But then he also had like this girlfriend who was supposedly a witch, and then they were like associated with this if you go into the Program to Kill interviews, they talk about how allegedly this other compound was really close by them, which was owned by these two science fiction writers who were molesting their child, and that child has now come forward about
The
all
child was L. Ron Hubbard.
So it's sounding like there's this whole like community in the woods that were like basically forming this post-apocalyptic cult, murdering women, raping women, and like just running rampant. And the whole thing got exposed, and then one guy suicided himself, and the whole thing gets covered up basically. So it's like stuff like that. That's basically case by case how Program to Kill unfolds. But this is all kind of comparable to werewolf cults, which do almost the exact same thing. Turning people into their feral state and reducing them of like all their humanity, and then unleashing them on the populace to basically eat people or murder people or rape people.
Delicious.
They listened to a lot of Breaking Benjamin before they sent them out.
What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Something standing in the way. Dude, that makes me wolf out. You ever wolfed out before?
I always wolf out. I just realized I didn't set up the video thing, so keep talking. Set the
No
shit.
one saw my cool gamer dice, my gamer dice.
I don't even believe in it. They did. I showed it to them.
Oh, all right, yeah, because I got it right there.
Jack, do you know much about Manson family in particular?
Yeah, I'm not an expert, but yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay, what do you think of the idea that Roman Polanski knew Charles Manson before the murders?
Well, that makes sense. Charles
Manson seemed to know everybody.
Yeah,
it gets into a lot of conjecture, but yeah, let's go into, let's dive into that conjecture. There are people that say that
Polanski's a weird guy himself. He's like making Rosemary's Baby, and he's like, he's doing things.
Definitely,
he's doing things to young women.
He's a
so he made a movie about
had like a sort of a polyamorous relationship, him and Sharon Tate. And
I don't know why you're dancing around the fact that the guy is legitimately a pederast that is fleeing from the United States.
I was dancing around that because I didn't know whether that would cause issues.
That's a fucking proven fact in court.
Everyone.
No, I just mean saying words like rape.
Oh, dude.
No. That word particularly, but no.
How about this?
Everyone who works at YouTube is stupid. People who work at YouTube are stupid, and they don't know what the word pederast means. So.
Okay.
Well, particularly, he not only did he rape a 14-year-old, but he's also someone who all of Hollywood basically defends. And basically, it's okay that he did that because his movies are so good. I don't think his movies are really that fucking good. I guess it's a hot take.
No, I honestly, he's one of those guys that everyone in Hollywood jerks off over.
Right.
But the thing is, okay, so what I kind of say is you have like this filmmaker who's up and coming, this niche guy who's probably in all the weird circles. His like lover and child get murdered in like a weird ritual sacrifice, and that guy gets propelled into like mythology.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's how he earned it.
He also dressed up as a woman in a film that he stars in, that he also directed. That's part of a trilogy. It's called the fucking Hotel trilogy or whatever the fuck. That's like kind of a sequel to Rosemary's Baby. Nobody talks about that shit. That's a weird fucking movie. But yeah, he's a witch. He's a fucking witch. He's a trans witch. He dresses up as a woman to commit witchcraft or whatever. She was also supposedly involved in witchcraft and Satanism before she was murdered by Charles Manson. Sharon Tate allegedly was also a witch. So all these people are caught up in these weird circles, and then Manson comes in and kills them, or kills her. Also, I think the Folger, an heir to the Folger dynasty, was
Folger's coffee guy.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. And also, one of the Folger, okay, this is allegedly one of the Folger heirs is also involved in the Nexium sex cult. The Nexium sex cult
Right.
that took celebrities and prostituted them, and basically sold women on the idea of the casting couch, and this like institutionalized casting couch that if you did the right things, sucked off the right guy, you would basically move up in Hollywood. So that was, I think, what I mean. I'll look that shit up right now, but I think that's one of the Folger heirs as well. So there's weird shit with the Folger coffee dynasty.
Yeah, it was Abigail Folger.
And their
Abigail
coffee
Folger.
is whack. That's the worst part. I need so much of it to get a proper cup of coffee.
But yeah,
crap.
I don't know. Abigail Folger, yeah, she was one of the victims of the Manson murders, and the Nexium cult. I'm pretty sure had
No, but
another.
it is also weird how like Charles Manson inserted himself into that world through Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys.
That too, yeah.
So he was in that world because that was during that era. Like it was the era of experimentation with drugs and sex and free love. So it wouldn't surprise me if Roman Polanski and Charles Manson had bumped shoulders somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Charles Manson, when you listen to him talk, and it's like, how much of it can you exactly trust? But, like, according to him, he
All
was
of it.
rubbing shoulders. I know, I love Manson. But according to
Boxcar
him,
and a jug of
he
wine
met everybody.
and a straight razor if you get too close.
Yeah.
I throw shit and piss in his face and he comes back and feeds me. That's Abraxas!
There's that Manson researcher that claims that there was some. See, I didn't do prep on this. I watched YouTube videos about this months later, maybe a year ago, because I'd watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But there's this researcher he claims. Yeah, I think it was there was tapes that Roman Polanski made tapes of Sharon Tate having sex with other men, and that somebody took the tapes from the crime scene so that nobody could ever see them, so that there was something suspicious about the tapes. Like, could be anything. Maybe she was having sex with Manson.
That's what it requires to be part of these circles, is to have blackmail. Nasty black man.
But were the 60s not just one giant werewolf cult?
They were a giant fucking MK Ultra debacle, but hey, this is too. So
just unleashing everybody's sort of primal instincts on society, and then saying that that's a good thing, and saying that everything that came before was evil. And
that's what all of this identity politics today is about as well.
Yeah, it's the evolution of it. Yeah.
Because there was a free love movement.
It's like what I want is good because it gets me off, and I like getting off. And fuck you for being a fucking bigot for not yucking my yum. Essentially, it's like turning fucking fetishes into a politics.
Yeah.
That's what the '60s started, and it's just gone from there, and taken it to this point where it's just like whatever I want goes, and you're actually evil for saying there's anything wrong with that. So I don't know. I think there is like a weird kind of connection to theosophy, the new age theosophy connection. Crowley being on like the Beatles albums and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we're getting into fucking Laurel Canyon territory and like fuck all that, but like basically, the whole sort of psychedelic movement in the '60s seems like one giant psyop, and I think psychedelics can be used in a positive way. But it's like the way that they were used was to completely fuck everything permanently. And
they can be used to brainwash people.
Exactly.
Definitely gaslight the shit out of them at least.
And you've talked about how the dude from the fucking Grateful Dead was a Mason. The acid tests and all of that stuff. Like all of that stuff is just one giant MK Ultra experiment. And we're living in the wake of that.
There were several free love movements that were characterized by the same type of behavior that had quite big domino effects. The first modern one we see is around Mary Shelley, and the author of Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, right? Her husband was an alchemist. He was into theosophy. and his friends were into hard drugs, and they had an open relationship. This kind of shit is what led her to write the book Frankenstein in the first place.
Right.
There's also the case of like Hemingway and all these writers earlier in their careers after World War One, coming to Europe, and while it was disillusioned and getting, just getting high on drugs, getting any type of high they could.
Mhm.
This is primarily one of the reasons why the Nazis became such a big thing, is the Soul Society, and
Yeah.
that feeling of delusionment after having a giant mass sacrifice, basically in the form of World War One.
That's what turned them all into werewolves suddenly.
Yeah.
You think the Fuel Society had sacrifices, or you think they caused World War
No,
II
I
to
think
make a
all
sacrifice?
these people, because of the energy that World War One expended, a lot of people came into contact with things they weren't initially exposed to. So not only do you have people on the right side of the spectrum getting into the occult, but you have people from all over getting into the occult at the same time. And once you realize that the Soul Society was only one piece of the puzzle, it makes sense that World War II was just a front for all these different occult societies to
Well, I have a
engage each
theory on
other
that.
on the battlefield.
So I think that like Evola and his kind of weird Ariosophy or whatever, it had its own
Right.
name.
He
The
started off
Ariosophists,
as a hippie. He was really into
yeah.
hard drugs. He experimented with all kinds of meditation and religions, and eventually became a professor of comparative religion in Italy.
Mhm.
Really weird guy. Anyway, I'm him reincarnated.
But yeah, I basically think that those groups, different people involved in different esoteric like Kabbalah and stuff like that, and then eventually Crowley, which kind of comes out of all that, and the basically all of these groups were kind of fighting an occult war during World War II.
Well, I
And
mean,
the
the
CIA.
basis of what we're getting at here, it's like it's been going on forever. The people in
Mhm.
control
Yeah.
have always been fucking dark sorcerers who are enacting the wars are giant human sacrifice rituals. It's always a war between magicians, essentially. Now,
Yeah.
those who know, those who understand. When I say understand, it's like there's a war for that because it's so subjective. Like, what is the nature of reality? Like, it's something to die over, essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all of history is a fight over that. I think.
Definitely.
From there, I think we can take it back a little
Wait,
bit. Let's. Yeah.
hold on. No. Before we move
Yeah,
on,
real
dude,
life is
I
canon.
just had to run. I had to run to my bookshelf in the other room. I know for a fact that Nazi werewolves were real because I got this DVD from the Dollar Tree called Iron Wolf, and it had Nazi werewolves in it.
Yeah, that's why I said all that. Got
Yep.
that book.
Yeah, dude, specifically. So no, it's a DVD I got from the Dollar Tree.
Dollar Tree DVD with
It's a
the
really
giant
good movie,
swastika
dude.
on it.
Trust me. Yeah, there was a swastika on a DVD at the Dollar Tree.
Awesome.
How do they get away
How
with
does that
this
make
shit?
you feel, liberals? We're good old fashioned boys love our Nazi werewolves. All
So,
right, and
I
that's
do
why
think
I
a
voted for
lot of
Donald
this
Trump.
programming, the serial killer shit, the mass shooter shit, it really is to gaslight someone until you unleash the animal in them, the cornered
Right.
animal who then
Yeah,
lashes
the
out.
animal I have become by 3
Yeah.
days grace.
Exactly. But I think, like, I am convinced they're doing this through occult means to people. I think when they do the weird MK Ultra rituals, I think it looks like some sort of black magic ritual from the viewpoint of the person experiencing. I think it always has. So I think basically the werewolf is a state of mind that they place upon people as essentially a Manchurian candidate to act out their will.
Right.
Let's go into the history of some of this stuff, dude. The belief in the possibility that humans could change shape has been traced back to 600 BC when King Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible thought he'd suffered from a condition that involved romping around as a wild beast for 4 years and growing out his hair. By the 1500s in France, it was a diagnosable medical condition known as lycanthropy. Two of the most informative early sources about the myths were the Book of Werewolves and a 19th century archaeologist and historian, The Werewolf by Montague Summers. Both track the shape-shifting ideas from ancient times and across different cultures. Summers believed that these man-made the man-beasts were real and the result of some sort of encounter with Satan, which either produced a lunacy via possession or the actual ability to shapeshift. So now, by that early on, when did that say? That's by the 1500s. Clinical lycanthropy was already recognized. It wasn't something they didn't know about. And I think the Inquisition made that very messy when everything had to be like, are you feuding with the devil or whatever? But there was a distinction at that point and like an argument between clinical lycanthropy and like the devil marking you and turning you into a werewolf.
Yeah. Well, a lot of you mentioned France. A lot of what we have, a lot of ideas we have about werewolves come from the myth of the Beast of Gévaudan.
Yeah, the Beast of Gévaudan is related. It's more the Lougarou, but the Beast of Gévaudan is
the Rougarou. Is it the Rougarou or the Lougarou?
It was Lougarou in France and Rougarou in like Louisiana.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Okay.
Kay's not talking too much, but I really like Kay's take about the Order of Nine Angles and how that kind of ties into this. If you want to speak on it.
Okay.
Okay, is Kay not here?
Okay.
Okay, I'll do it.
I got it.
Okay.
I got a tale from Scandinavia. A man and his son, both bandits, came upon two sleeping men in possession of wolf skins. They donned them and could not get them off. When they began to feel and howl like wolves, they went into the woods to slay hapless travelers together. So, the first thing I read here, it's very reminiscent of like a skinwalker story. It's like classic skinwalker. The skinwalker is like a Navajo warrior who wears the skin of an animal, and it allows him to basically have the abilities of that animal. Whether he actually transforms or not is definitely a matter of debate and maybe differing opinion within like the culture itself. But that's basically the story we're seeing here repeated in Europe. How it is the skin. When he takes the skin, now he can't get it off. It's essentially cursed. He is the wolf.
Yeah, so in Haiti, actually, there's a loup-garou as well, but it doesn't mean the human being that transforms into a wolf. In Haiti, the loup-garou is a bag made out of an animal skin, usually a dog or a wolf or a coyote. And
you keep mud cookies in it.
Well, actually, no. You keep a variety of different fetishes in it, like human bones and animal bones and special herbs and things like that, right? Maybe like spiders or who the fuck knows what, right? So, anyways, this loup-garou is a bag made out of a dog skin, basically. And what you do is you use it to shapeshift your astral body, so you can use like the ghosts of animals and the ghosts of humans to modify your astral body, so you can go and invade like the dreams of other people and so on and so forth. So in Haiti, the werewolf is seen as potentially a physical creature, but in general, the loup-garou is a magical item that is used to transform the astral body of a magician into an animal so that he can attack either ordinary people or other sorcerers.
Now, it sounds like it comes directly from these stories of like the animal skin that they would wear.
Yes.
Right.
And Haiti was a French colony forever.
Right.
That's
right. I was going to say, in France, we have a lot of these cases from 1500s.
I'm going to go through them.
1600s.
I'm going to hit all of them probably.
I got notes on them too, Yakov.
So I'll keep going here. These practices were taboo. And for some people, taboo subjects acquired an erotic aura, people like Kay. These folks dressed in wolf skins at night, according to Summers, as a way to contact Satan for the beast's special powers. When they managed to make the change, says the lore, they were granted a period of complete abandon into blood and violence. Tales were told around Europe of hunters who hacked off the paw of a wolf only to find a woman's hand in their pouch and a woman in town with a mysteriously bandaged arm. Which, yeah, that's like a trope in media these days. Popular stories play up the idea that the transformation is affected by cycles of the moon, with the night of the full moon having the power to physically turn a person into a marauding wolf. He or she can then lope about, killing as they please and having no memory of it. When the night's over, they return to human form, often with the taste of blood in their mouths, and sometimes with dead animals in their possession. They might believe they had nightmares about killing. Evidence that they did it is repellent for them. Those who grasp that they've been cursed may attempt to lock themselves into barred rooms to prevent any more. They warn their loved ones not to let them out, beg for release, though they might. In the 20th century, renditions, the hell is this? I'm having a hard time. Crap. The werewolves are often full of remorse and feel captive to a state not of their choosing. They are destroyed only by a silver bullet to the heart. So that's the mythology, but all of that seems to be added by literature in Hollywood, really.
Yeah.
Well, the silver makes sense in the context of hermetics because silver is associated with the moon. It's like the metal of the moon. So, like, if you could get silver, you could like charge it up with lunar energies, moonergies, and you could like stab the wolf that's controlled by the lunargies, and therefore, that knife would have more power over it than a regular knife.
Yeah, like Skyrim.
True.
In these old cases, they all seem to consciously choose to become a werewolf. They sell their soul to like a figure, a satanic figure that they meet out in the woods or something like that. And there doesn't seem to be there doesn't seem to be this modern motif. There does seem to be association with the moon. Some of them say they transform on the full moon, but there doesn't seem to be this modern motif of them being a victim to the werewolf affliction. They don't seem to not want to be werewolves, and they don't seem to turn other people into werewolves when they bite them. Those seem to be new ideas.
I do want to hit on the silver thing again. It's like well known that like silver has antimicrobial properties. So if this is like a disease or whatever, then that would be known.
Go with the disease of hypothesis for now.
No, I'm just saying what other people think. I personally ascribe to miasma theory that it's bad air that makes you sick, but no, I just wanted to bring it up.
It's true.
I mean, could just have rabies. They could just have rabies and they're going around
that's also
people, I don't know, and then
theory.
The inquisitors torture them and say, "Oh, you're a werewolf. You sold your soul to the devil."
Right.
Well, I think the bite is a curse, and the witch's ritual is also a curse. Even if it was a willing curse, it's like different forms of curses.
Right. Well, it's magical in some form. With berserkers, it was you had to do certain invocations to Woden before.
I don't know how a motherfucker can become a berserker because I eat mushrooms and I just listen to trap music.
You're not doing the incantations right.
That's a lie told you by historians. There are no mushrooms. They didn't use
There's no reference to mushrooms.
Well, they should
have.
No
sagas about
mushrooms.
Berserker.
They should have.
Berserker is actually a bear. As a bear man.
I was
Hefner is for the wolf man. Yeah.
I was just reading that there are two different distinctions for the bear men and the wolf.
Yes. So there's in the.
I want to read something that I totally forgot where the fuck it was. So go on, Maud.
In the not the elf, but the anyway, I don't know I forgot the word for the wolf's one, but the famous example of this is when the two Volsung male family members escape into the woods. They're fleeing from the king at the time, and they come to this shack, and they see two wolf skins hanging on the wall. So they take it and invoke Odin, and then they swear an oath that they would kill a certain number of people before they took the wolf skins off. You have to like make sure if you're going to do it for a certain period of time. There's this it occurs in Norse mythology a lot, where there's certain spells only last for certain amounts of time. It was they're really careful about it. One kills 7. They each kill about 3 or 2 at a time.
I want to read this shit real. This is relevant to the because we're talking about like the Inquisition and torture and stuff. Typing loudly, Brad, please. Please.
When you're done, I'll throw in something about mushrooms.
Now, in there were a bunch of werewolf trials. You think of just witch trials. There were a bunch of werewolf trials. Now in Livonia, which is apparently Latvia and Estonia, there was a lot of pagan worshipping in defiance to both the Christian church and the authorities and nobility for the entirety of the 17th century, which it was like the 1600s where all of these werewolf trials were popping off like crazy in France. So consequently, because of the paganism, they did not believe in Satan and therefore not in witches or satanic pacts. They did, however, believe in both malevolent magic as well as the existence of werewolves, though they did not associate them with Satan as the church and authorities did. Result of this was when the Baltic peasantry accused anyone of practicing black magic or of causing damage to humans' lives, property, and animals, while in the shape of a werewolf, the authorities interpreted this to accusations of witchcraft and satanic pacts, and pressed the accused to adjust their confessions in accordance with the European witchcraft model during torture. In at least 18 trials between 1527 and 1725, 18 women, 13 men were accused of having caused harm in the shape of werewolves. The accused often confessed to having been given their wolf skins by another person or by a demon, sometimes after having eaten something particular and hid them, usually the skins, under a rock when they did not use them. In 1636, for example, a woman from Kurna claimed to have been taken into the woods by an old woman and given berries to eat, and then begun to hunt with the woman in the woods as wolves. So people did not turn into wolves only, but also bears. The testimony of Gret Parnau, I have no idea how to say this crap, claimed that while Kanti Hans and his spouse had turned into wolves, a female accomplice of them had taken the shape of a bear. The accuser never voluntarily claimed to have had any association with Satan, but through leading questions and torture, the authorities adjusted the confessions about werewolves into confessions about witchcraft, which resulted in convictions and executions of the claimed werewolves as witches. As late as in 1696, Greta, the daughter of Titsa Thomas, gave testimony that a whole pack of 11 werewolves were hunting in the woods around Vasta Moisa under their leader, Libby Motz. Now, one thing that's interesting about that whole thing, they weren't being killed for being werewolves. They were being tortured and killed for pacts with Satan. Right?
Right.
So now it's like they confessed the werewolf thing before they were even tortured.
Yes.
So it wasn't torture that made them say they were a werewolf. It was torture that made them say they had a pact with Satan, maybe. That's why they were killed. But it doesn't seem to be torture that's making them say werewolf, which is an important distinction here.
Interesting.
I also want to note here that I talked about an old woman who took this person into the woods, gave them berries, and that's how they became a werewolf. That's very reminiscent of Missing 411 stories. You have like the
nightshade berries too.
Ooh. You got the robot old lady. You got the picking berries in the woods, and you change. Something happens. It's the same thing as the Fae stories. People going missing. Very interesting there.
Yeah, so with mushrooms, I don't know if y'all have ever taken mushrooms in your country where it's legal to do so, but in the countries where it's legal to take mushrooms, you can take mushrooms. And it tells you right now, them psilocybe mushrooms, they will do things, especially if you lay down in the dark. You can totally, dude, you take the mushrooms, you lay down in the dark, close your eyes, you can totally recapitulate your ancestral memories of evolving from like a little microscopic organism into like a furry critter and to where you are now. And
I'm currently a furry critter.
Dude, you ever eat them and lock yourself in a?
I don't know about you guys. I'm still a furry critter.
Dude, you got to eat a bunch of mushrooms, lock yourself in a closet in a motel in Miami with 2 other dudes.
Just
yo,
dudes.
That sounds bad. It's the wrong kind of furry. Wrong kind of furry.
Yeah, we're going to the con, dude. You can't change
we're
right
yipping.
now.
We're yipping, brother.
I can't change back right now. I got to go to a con.
Now there's the other kind of mushrooms, the Amanita muscaria, and when you eat those have a pretty different effect. They're more like they cause some delusions, but you can also see through space and time. And I mean, it also has a tendency to make people angry and jittery.
I took some
So
Amanita muscaria gummies at the Gathering the Juggalos. That shit is surprisingly intense. And I've
Yeah.
never had it in like gummy form where it's just like the active chemical. Visuals of sheer energy. I don't even know how to describe it, but very different from psilocybin. It's very interesting. But I can see the
Wim took Amanita and it sucks. It's terrible.
the jitters
It's
were definitely
fucking
there. It was a heavy body
tripping
load
over
with that
everything.
stuff, but man, is it cool.
In your Cannibals of Enoch stream a while back, you talked about how the giants are cursed with this infinite hunger, and their devouring is actually a curse upon all of us because they're cursed with devouring each other. The angels had cursed them with this, this endless devouring hunger that would lead them to devour each other. And you speculated that maybe or that this could be a metaphor for the leaders of our society being these cannibals who are eating each other, and we are all subject to that whole process of eating, and that's sort of our kind of, I mean, capitalism or whatever you want to call it, but this, if you think of our society being run by werewolf cults, something like what's happening with Russia versus the CIA or something like that, we could see these as like two different factions of the same thing that are basically just endlessly eating each other.
You're telling me that this is literally Twilight and we're in a Dracula werewolf war?
Twilight,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have content about that. I didn't bring it up for no.
Oh yeah, let's go that.
I don't know. Do you want to go down that road right now? Before we do that, I want to hit some of the first recognized historical cases of lycanthropy in European culture. Now, to do that, you have to go way back. You got to go to the Bible, go to the book of Daniel, where Nebuchadnezzar, the king Nebuchadnezzar, he gets a madness from God. His kingdom is taken away from him. Basically becomes an animal. His hair grows out like the bird's feathers. His fingernails like the talons of an eagle, it says. Then he crawled around in the wilderness on all fours like a beast for years until the truth came back to him and he stood up and said God is good. But then there was another story like this that happened in Armenia. It was actually the reason the Armenian country became the first official Christian nation, and it was the founding of the Armenian Apostolic Church. Is that what it's called, Mod? I don't know. Anyway, Tiridates the Great. Now let's go to this story. Let's do this. The traditional story of the conversion of the king and the nation is primarily based on the 5th century work, yada yada. It tells the story of Gregory the Illuminator, son of Enoch, who was brought up as a Christian and feeling guilt for his own father's sins, joined the Armenian army and worked as a secretary to the king. So at the time, Armenia was all Zoroastrian, pagan nation. Gregory the Illuminator refused to take part in the Zoroastrian rites, and for this, he was tortured and thrown in a dungeon for being Christian. So during the years of Gregory's imprisonment, a group of virgin nuns led by Gaiani came to Armenia as they fled the Roman persecution of their Christian faith. Tiridates heard about the group and the legendary beauty of one of its members, Ripsime. He brought them to the palace and demanded them marry the beautiful virgin. She refused. The king had the whole group tortured and killed. After this event, he fell ill and, according to legend, adopted the behavior of a wild boar, aimlessly wandering around the forest. His sister had a dream wherein Gregory was still alive in the dungeon and he was the only one able to cure the king. At this point, it had been 13 years since his imprisonment, and the odds of him being alive were slim. They retrieved him from the pit, and despite being incredibly malnourished, he was still alive. He was kept alive by a kind-hearted woman who threw a loaf of bread down into the pit every day for him. So he came out, he cured the king of his madness, and then Armenia has been a Christian nation ever since. It's one of the most renowned and recognized churches. It's the story of Armenia. So it seems like these stories, the Bible, and there's a lot of sources for this werewolf stuff, but I do think, obviously, the Bible is a big one. I think you have stories like this, which are essentially seen as lycanthropy, and then you have references to wolves in sheep's clothing among the church. So
Well, you've talked
I don't know. The story you just told about the Armenians, this sounds kind of like a case of murder or suicide ghost driving somebody insane. But go on.
The two are not mutually exclusive, Kay.
I'm not saying they are.
You've done streams talking about both Travis Scott and Kanye West, and Travis Scott with the whole satanic ritual. Do you think that these Kardashians who they're marrying and having kids with are some kind of weird werewolf witches?
I think all celebrities are in the illusion.
But particularly them, especially the OJ connections.
I think all these people that you see like radically changing their body, they're essentially like transhuman sorcerers at some level. Or they're guided by transhuman sorcerers, one or the other, but I do think that's what's going on. I think that's like what you see in like the Bogdanovs and stuff like that. Like, that ain't normal. Whatever's going on there ain't human. It's another idea entirely. It's against nature.
Well, in every cult there are different factions, right? So they might not all be werewolves.
Oh, there's some kind of fucked up beast. At least we agree on that, right?
Yeah.
When all the Travis Scott ritual sacrifice thing happened, Kylie, or whichever one he's married to, posted on her Instagram. It's just like, look how many people are at this concert. Like, it was just like a completely innocuous post, and it's like she's there and she knows all these people are dying, and she just posts like, oh my god, look how big the crowd is. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's their role a lot of the time. All of these people who are in the spotlight, it's to like promote the worst thing possible, and then get a bunch of likes when they're like crying in their next post about how it's a tragedy, sad day. So
she was also present when Megan Thee Stallion was allegedly shot. But I don't know. This is rap fucking esoteric conspiracy bullshit. But when the rapper, I forget his name, the Canadian rapper shot Megan Thee Stallion, the same Kardashian, Kylie or whatever was there. But yeah, I don't know. Werewolves,
indeed.
Is Megan Thee Stallion like a horse werewolf? Is that what she's called, Megan Thee Stallion? Did she turn to a stallion?
Werewolves?
What is it? Well, no, because she's a woman.
Yeah, but if you had to have sex with one of them, would it be horsecock Megan Fox or Pussy Hogan?
Isn't that how they got Andrew Tate, dude? He wanted to fuck horsecock Megan Fox.
Yeah, he decided to fuck horsecock Megan Fox, and the Illuminati turned on him immediately.
He'll be deciding on a lot of horsecocks now while he's rotting in Romanian prison.
He was
good. No, he's out. He's balling.
He's out now.
Doing good now.
He chose transgender dick over. Yeah.
I stand by Pussy Hogan, dude. There's nothing gay about that.
Dude,
that's a story
listen,
to tell your boys.
I can actually talk to like Pussy Hogan about what was it like to slam Andre in the Pontiac Silverdome.
Romance with Pussy Hogan is just wholesome. That's all. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, well, you know what, dude? Out of everything I know about Hulk Hogan, at least she's a religious gal.
All right, well, how about this? If you're fucking horsecock Megan Fox, you're gonna be real disappointed when like you find out about the horsecock. But if it's Pussy Hogan, you already decided you're gonna have sex with Hogan. So when you find a pussy, it's just a good thing. It's just like
this is a mega streamcast conversation.
I can't help myself, dude.
When's it coming back, dude? We can't let that fire intro die.
That's true. I don't know. Let's do Warhammer's fucking Mega Streamcast crossover stream.
It's just gonna be talking about how Space Marines don't have dicks.
It's not true. I have fucking hot takes on Warhammer that I just still have like laying there doing nothing with them.
Well, no, all right, no, I don't want to bring up how like the actual like power armor that they wear has a sissy little clitty cage built into it. And that's why Space Marines can't fight.
I don't care about any of this. Which way is chaos? Where do I go?
Every Space Marine.
Where's the warp? Point me to the eye of fucking terror.
They're all in chastity cages, dude. All 4 dicks are in chastity cages. Dude, Space Marines can't fuck.
Oh, but if they worship Slanesh, they can. But it's like in weird fucked up ways. You fuck them with a bolter.
Dude, Slanesh has the key to their little clitty cages.
Whatever. This is not the time for this shit at all. Let's talk about Peter Stump. Peter Stump, who lived from 1535 to 1589. A German farmer and alleged serial killer accused of werewolfery. Y'all ever get accused of some werewolf? You have been found guilty of werewolfery?
Yeah.
I'm guilty of tomfoolery.
It's a little different, dude. A little different. Okay. So, although the exact place and date of Peter Stump's birth is unknown, examining sources likely puts it near Bedburg, Germany, around 1530. The name Stump, given reference that his left hand had been cut off, leaving only his stump, and that's interesting because it almost it was alleged that as the werewolf had its left forepaw cut off, and the same injury proved the guilt of the man. So it's implying that he had his hand cut off when he was a werewolf. That's how he got his name.
Yeah.
Just badass. So during 1589, Stump had one of the most lurid and famous werewolf trials in history. After being stretched on a rack and before further torture commenced, he confessed to having practiced black magic since he was 12 years old. Now notice here, we are not debating, we're not torturing him to find out if he's a werewolf. We decided he's a werewolf. Said he was a werewolf, everyone agreed he was a werewolf. We're torturing him specifically for black magic. Where was I? So, he claimed that the devil had given him a magical belt or girdle, and this comes up a lot too, which enabled him to metamorphose into the likeness of a greedy, devouring wolf, strong and mighty, with eyes great and large, which in the night sparkled like fire, a mouth great and wide, with most sharp and cruel teeth, a huge body and mighty paws. I want to reread that as Francis E. Deck. The likeness of a greedy, devouring wolf, strong and mighty, with eyes great and large, with the night sparkled like fire, a mouth great and wide, with most sharp and cruel teeth. Removing the belt, he said, made him transform back into his human form. After his capture, he told the local magistrate that he had left the girdle in a certain valley. The magistrate sent for it to be retrieved, but no such belt was ever found. This belt thing comes up a lot. Now, I was hearing somebody on some conspiracy documentary talk about how the magician always wears like a sash or a... When he's doing his ritual and he's calling forth the demon in his pentagram or whatever, the sash is there because at the end of it, he has to say, like, you know, go forth and do my bidding. Something that ends the session, to get rid of the demon. But one thing, allegedly, that would always be a surefire thing is removing the sash. So they'd always have the sash on in case they forgot to say the thing, or the thing they were supposed to say didn't work. They could take off the sash and it would end the connection with it. It seems to be reflected here. Hey, do you want to criticize that at all? It was definitely some
Actually, I
bullshit
was just going to say, I have a book that talks about the magic belt or girdle. So the magic belt, which is worn around the waist to keep the entire garment together, is necessary for the magic robe. The belt is either made from the same material as the garment or cap, or else it can be made of leather in the same color as the garment. Ancient magicians preferred belts, or as they called them, girdles, made from lion skin, which they turned into leather first. Lion skin was considered to be the symbol of power, strength, and control. The symbolic significance of the belt actually points to the control of the elements, in other words, to magical equilibrium. And since the upper and lower halves of the human body are kept together at the waist or the middle, the belt symbolizes a scale. The symbol chosen by the magician can be crafted or painted on the leather belt, whereas if he chooses a skin belt, it would have to be embroidered. It is at the discretion of the magician as to how he expresses the equilibrium and control of the elements in a symbolic drawing. For example, he can draw a circle in the center of which he can draw a pentagram with the tip pointing upwards, and in the center of the pentagram he can draw an equilateral triangle as a sign of control over the elements in the three worlds. In the center of the triangle he can draw a Greek cross, an equilateral cross, as the sign of the positive and the negative principles of the equilibrium. The procedure is the same as it was with the magical garment and cap. The garment and cap represent the connection to the divinity in question, and the magician must bless or sanctify the magic belt, given an oath that he uses it with the magic robe only for rituals. The magic belt is kept with the magic robe and all other magical instruments in a safe place. So it would seem that the belt... That's right. That's right.
Hey, Flame.
To tell anybody about our little secret, I'll kill your dog.
Go on, Kay.
Well.
Go on! They're all laugh at me! No, I'm gonna have more than 10 viewers this time!
Oh well.
I'm gonna get
Anyways,
a
yeah,
super chat!
I think it's fair to say that the belt of a black magician would serve the same function more or less as the belt of another type of magician. And in this case, like we said, it symbolizes the control of the elements and the separation of the lower half from the upper half. So, with that in mind, let's wax lyrical for a moment and let's say that you make a skin belt out of a wolf skin. Well, then you need to put a symbol on it that symbolizes your control of the elements. Um, so, what else can we say about that? I mean,
Well, yeah, I think the symbol, the symbolism of control clearly shows what's implied here. And this might be, and we're getting here is one side. We're getting like the Inquisition's opinion, belts and girdles,
right?
Not K's opinion. So there's a lot in the middle here.
Yeah, so if we take the idea of the belt controlling the upper and lower halves, well, I mean, what's the werewolf about? It's about being an animal. It's about the lower half. So you're connecting your upper and lower half. You're connecting your upper half, your ego, to your lower half, your id and your libido. And normally we want to like subordinate the id to the ego. We want to make the libido controlled by the ego. But the werewolf is kind of doing the opposite thing. It's kind of letting the id and the libido control the ego. And yeah, I mean, what's the wolf symbolize? The wolf symbolizes a pack animal that is known as a sort of a menace to domestic
But
society.
I think the
and pastoral
werewolf itself,
societies.
the symbol of the werewolf is the question of the animal or the man. And like,
Well,
even when we talk about serial killers, the point is like you never know who it is. Animal.
So the medieval Christians had the same understanding as the Greeks when it came to dividing certain parts of the body governing over or harboring certain traits. The stomach being the appetite and hunger. So you would the magician using a belt across his waist to like siphon that hunger or to use that hunger in a way.
Delicious. Speaking of hunger, for 25 years, Stump had allegedly been an insatiable bloodsucker, gorged on the flesh of goats, lambs, and sheep, as well as men, women, and children. Being threatened with torture, he confessed to killing and eating 14 children, 2 pregnant women whose fetuses he ripped from their bones and ate their hearts panting, hot, and raw, which he later described as dainty morsels. One of the 14 children was his own son, whose brain he was reported to have devoured. Stump loved his son dearly, but in the end his bloodlust prevailed. Allegedly, he went out with his son into the woods, transformed into the likeness of a wolf, and devoured him. Not only was Stump accused of being a serial murderer and cannibal, but also of having an incestuous relationship with his daughter, who was sentenced to die with him, that he had coupled with a distant relative, which was also considered to be incestuous according to the law. In addition to this, he confessed to having had intercourse with a succubus sent to him by the devil. So here's
I can't control my horny level.
Our first clue into the sexual deviance of all of these guys, which is a constant.
Dude, everybody has been plagued by succubus once in their life.
Not I.
You got to remember the guy torturing him for this information.
I could tell you that's a lie. I could tell you
The
that's a
guy
lie.
torturing him for this information has been in an institution a whole life where he's not even allowed to jerk off.
I'm with you, but I'm not sure there was ever a question of whether or not he killed him. Is the thing about that. It's only a matter of like, were these demonic Satan sacrifices? The only question that's really being asked during sessions is,
if you were a sadist, I'm just playing skeptic here. If you were a sadistic killer, which they have always existed from the dawn of time, psychopaths who want to eat people and rape children and whatnot just because they want to. There's no particular deep reason behind it. If you were one of these and you lived in Germany in the 1500s, it may seem obvious to us now in retrospect that if you're like, oh no, the devil made me do it, and I was actually in the form of a wolf when I was doing it. It seems obvious to us now that you're not going to get any leniency for saying that. We know what happens because we're in the future. Just like I know everything that's going to happen to you guys today because I'm in the future.
That's true.
But they don't necessarily know that. They probably think if I say the devil made me do it and I was in the form of a wolf when I did it, I may get some leniency. It may be seen as diminished responsibility.
I don't think the devil thing works that way because they're literally being taken by the Inquisition, and that's their main
I was
worry.
about to say that.
These people are saying they are werewolves. They did kill. Now, also keep in mind that they were already aware of a clinical diagnosis of lycanthropy as a mental illness. So, and here's the biggest thing of all, is that people who were tortured and never confessed to conspiring with Satan were just let go because it was an excuse to have clinical lycanthropy. It was a brain disorder. There were people, and I'll get into this, they literally sent them to monasteries to live because they were crazy and they didn't want to kill them just for being a werewolf who was crazy.
So there's I've got notes myself, and my favorite case, which it's probably in your notes as well, is Jean Grenier. And Jean Grenier actually did not get tortured, I don't think, at all. He just spontaneously confessed.
I think he was a 13-year-old boy too. I don't know if that impacts.
He was a 13-year-old boy. He just spontaneously confessed to being a werewolf, said he killed all these people. They're like, no, you didn't kill those people. We don't. I'm not sure if there was a record of the people actually being missing, but
I have conflicting reports on that, as you would imagine. Yeah, definitely conflicting on that, but yeah, it's very strange, and you can see the inconsistency in the way they're applying the law, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure exactly. But when you have some people who just get off scot-free, and then this girl was killed, was executed with her father for him having an incestuous relationship with her. Now, from our point of view, how could she have committed a crime? Like, maybe she was conspiring with him to kill. It has nothing about that. She was literally raped by her dad, and they killed her for it.
Well, here's another example of the mid 1500s. There was a woman who admitted to having sexual intercourse with a bull. Now, what happened was they beheaded the woman and burned the bull alive. So yes, it goes both ways. First of all, she's a female in the 1500s, so we're not going to take this. Oh, I was forced.
I can't control my horny level.
Yeah, it's just and the law varied because it had to go through all this. There wasn't any like centralization of law besides the church being the only centralizing power. See, it had to go through the magistrate, had to go through the mayor, had to go through all this other bullshit before it even got to the Inquisition.
Let's move it forward then. We'll keep going, stay in the 16. No, this is
certainly some of the cases were trialed by secular authorities, but when we say it was the Inquisition, we mean it's influenced by the culture at the time.
Yes.
So Peter Neers, he lived 1540 to 1581, was a German serial killer and bandit who was executed on the 16th of September 1581. Based on confessions extracted from him and his accomplices under torture, he was convicted of 544 murders, including 24 fetuses cut out of pregnant women. Allegedly, the fetal remains were to be used in magical rituals.
Yes.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So 544. Now here's an example of some confessions that I don't really buy. That is too many murders.
Yeah,
now,
I don't buy it.
That's a lot. At the same time, it's like maybe someone could get away with that back in fucking 1540.
Well, he had
I
accomplices.
think the opposite. I think in a late medieval period, the towns are so small.
Yeah.
You know, like
that's true.
To find 500 people to kill and not get noticed.
Right, and they would have lists of everybody's property and their possessions for taxation.
When was the best time to kill people freely? I feel like maybe the 60s.
The Viking Age.
The 60s.
But I'm talking about, but you're not going out there as a berserker with a battle axe. You're a weird, sexually frustrated, like, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. Medieval era, you could be a robber with a little band of robbers. You live out in the woods.
The medieval
on the side of the
era.
road.
But I don't want there to be a clear
A highway,
motivation.
man.
If your motivation is like profit or like for the state or something,
Being a
that doesn't
pervert?
count. Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, being a pervert, but you don't have. It doesn't have to be sexual though either. For the thrill, for the sheer thrill of it.
Just
sheer
doing
I
the
mean,
Grand Theft Auto
like-
thing in real
like-
life. Yeah,
Yeah,
you just,
like,
no one
let's-
plays Grand Theft Auto for the actual missions. They
Bronze
just run
Age
around
Exactly.
shooting people,
right.
getting the cops chasing them. When was the best time to do that in real life?
I think the 60s, maybe like the 40s, to
Ireland,
the 30s to the
at
60s.
any period in history. Ireland at any period in history.
Ireland. Okay.
You know what I would say,
Australia.
for like
Nah, it was never a good
like
time to do
The
anything.
flame,
motivation.
yeah, let's hear this.
What I was saying, like for motivations, would be like since we are talking about werewolf, right? We're talking about
Hell
a
yeah.
bestial side of man. What is the aspect of that? Like, what attribute does that come from? That comes from nature. That comes from his meaning for survival. That is his motivation as a beast, as an animal. Like if he becomes a werewolf, he is not looking for profits or anything like that. He's looking for a meal. He's looking for subsistence.
Yeah.
He's looking for survival.
I
Oh,
think
it's
some
like
of
the
these,
Kanaima.
these medieval peasants were just fucking hungry, to be honest.
I'm
They're
kinda hungry
fine.
myself.
They
Have
get a
y'all
big
ever
meal
heard of
every-
Kanaima?
One at a time, folks. Like I forgot to put us in a private channel. Now everybody's here.
So there's this
Who
thing
do
in
you wanna
South
kick out?
America called the Kanaima.
Pollock's fucking audio sucks dick, so personal.
Pollock.
God damn it. Fix that goddamn
Muted.
cat.
Damn it,
It's
Bobby.
fine. It's fine.
That boy ain't right.
So this
Yeah,
is
so
one.
in South America. Go ahead.
To be honest, in this article, I don't even think werewolf comes up a single time. I think I just like this one because of the amount of people he killed. But he was claiming to have killed those 544 people in the name of black magic. So this is kind of an example where I could see this being the confession, the torture confession. I can see that here
Stop
because
policing him.
the
Go
number is so
downstairs
high,
and let him do the thing. Stop
and it's-
policing him.
and it's exactly
Oh.
fucking it's exactly the confession that the Inquisition wanted.
Right.
So like that's an
I
example
also
of one.
think sometimes when they catch a psychopath, I think this happened with Ted Bundy, though I don't know the numbers. It's once the psychopath knows they're caught, they're like, I'm not gonna ever get to kill anyone again. I'm gonna go to jail. They start going, what other mischief can I cause? And go, okay, I'll just say I killed 3 times as many people as I actually killed,
Yeah.
just to get them running around looking for the bodies forever, because that's just like my last fuck you.
Let's talk about that wolf boy. So some girls tending sheep one afternoon in an area in South France came upon a strange-looking 13-year-old boy. His hair was tawny red, thickly matted, falling over his shoulders, and completely covering his narrow brow. His small, pale gray eyes twinkled with an expression of horrible ferocity and cunning from deep, sunken hollows. He also had strong white teeth that looked like fangs, dark skin, and large hands with pointed black nails. His clothing was in tatters. To the girls, he appeared to be starving. As they gathered around him, he asked them to select among themselves who was the prettiest. He meant to take her as a bride. Introducing himself as the son of a priest, he also told them that he sometimes wore a wolfskin cape that changed him into a wolf for an hour at dusk 3 times a week, whereupon he romped over the countryside with a gang of 9 others. His preferred meal, he stated, was little girls like themselves. This confession caused the girls to run away. His name was Jean, and he'd tell girls he met that he'd sold himself to the devil. He often described the victims he had already attacked, and since several girls from the village had indeed disappeared, their families began to wonder if these fanciful stories were true. Their concerns urged the authorities to investigate. So just from there, Aussie, you got anything to add conflicting with that?
I checked out multiple different sources, and some of them said that he was confessing to crimes that there was no record of there actually being a missing person. But whether there was or wasn't, they seem to be pretty sure that he didn't do it.
Jean Grenier was no priest's son, it turned out, but the offspring of a poor laborer. He'd been hired by several villagers to watch their sheep, but had often neglected his duties. Taken before the courts, he continued to state that he could take the form of a wolf, and then told his tale. When he was 10, he insisted a neighbor had taken him into the woods and introduced him to M. de la Forest, is what it says here. The Lord of the Forest. A dark-skinned man who gave them both a salve and a wolfskin cape. Thereafter, Grenier had found himself able to change into a wolf. He claimed that he killed a dog, but initially did not admit to anything worse. This is the first time we hear of the salve, and the salve is another thing that comes up. They find themselves in the woods with like a coven of witches, something like that, and they're given a salve, an ointment or something. I don't know exactly what it's implying, to be honest.
I'm familiar with this. So the black man of the
salve on.
Because the black man of the woods told you what it does.
Yeah.
So the black man of the woods, the maître de la forêt, whatever you fucking want to call him,
the Lord
master
of the Forest.
Yeah, the Lord of the Forest. He appears as a dark man, often riding a horse, and he offers you a magic belt or magic cloak in exchange for powers. And basically, you do a ritual, and he gives you the cloak, and he gives you a potion or a salve, which is like an ointment you rub on. And there are conflicting reports about what it's made of. It's made sometimes from the fat of boiled babies. Other times it's made from like pigs. Other times it's made from potatoes. But the main thing is that it has like nightshades in it. Now potatoes themselves are nightshades, but the fat will bind. Well, the nightshade alkaloids will bind to fat, and then they're fat soluble. So then
So it's a
you can,
deliriant, is what we're getting at here.
It's a deliriant, and it'll go through your skin. And so, you rub it on and you start to fucking hallucinate. Which connects to the South American ayahuasca cults, where they put nightshades into their ayahuasca brews as a way to increase their werewolf powers.
That sounds like a terrible high, honestly.
Yeah, it does.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm saying it's what dark sorcerers do. And they got this whole subset of dark sorcerers called the Kanaima, which are actually all about transforming into an animal so that they can hunt people.
Cool.
Yes, it's...
There's a European plant called deadly nightshade. So
Yep.
nightshade is a broader term for plants that includes potatoes and eggplants and various different things. But deadly nightshade is a specific thing. It's a little bush. A lot of people have them growing out the front of their house, like it's just a normal European plant that people have taken to Australia and America, wherever Europeans have settled. And it has these little black berries, and they tell you when you're a kid you don't eat those berries because they will kill you. But if you take just a small amount, and I do not recommend doing this under any circumstances, but if you take just the right amount not to die, you will hallucinate pretty intensely. You lie in bed, basically go into a dream.
It's basically the same thing. If you here's a safer way to do it: eat a whole pack of Benadryl.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Jimson weed, datura, deadly nightshade, fucking aconite, henbane, wolfsbane,
mandrake,
mandrake. All these hallucinogenic plants do give you a really bad trip most of the time. But one consistent thing that I've noticed across cultures where they take them, they say it puts you in connection with the land of the dead and ghosts and your ancestors.
Here's the thing about these deliriants. What they're known for is very realistic hallucinations, not like hallucinations on LSD or mushrooms, where like hallucinations on LSD and mushrooms, like I see the web of connection and everything. Hallucinations on deliriants is like that. There are spiders all over me, Jerry. There's spiders all over me, Jerry. Someone do the drop, please, now. Jerry, there's spiders, Jerry. I ate a whole bag of Benadryl.
But yeah, it connects you with the land of the dead, so many native cultures will say. And I mean, that ties in perfectly with the type of magic that the Loup-garou and other like dark sorcerers use, because they want to use the souls or ghosts of dead humans and dead animals to augment their own astral body to go do stuff on the astral plane, including taking on the form of an animal so that they can harvest vital energy from their enemies or otherwise harm their enemies.
hate my enemy.
Yeah,
I
sure.
love my
Try to kill him.
Do you guys know about Bluebeard, the myth of Bluebeard?
pirate.
Yes.
Pirate?
That's Blackbeard,
Are you sure it's not Redbeard?
Bluebeard.
I think. Bluebeard is a guy who he had a castle in France, and like he basically like led a woman. Woman moved in with him to be his wife. He basically told her like, you can't go into this one room, but you can have everything in this castle. You just can't go in this one room. She goes in the one room and she finds like the heads of all of his previous wives, and then he cuts her head off and adds her to the pile, and he starts over again and adds another. Yeah,
a man after my own heart.
But so there was a man in the 15th century named Gilles de Rais, who he was a serial killer who he killed between 100 and 200 people pretty much. Well, it's hard to say because some people say he killed 600 people. But he was a lord. He fought alongside Joan of Arc. So he was a respected lord. He was a respected soldier. But according to the stories, he would take children into his castle. He would disembowel them. He would molest them, etc., and sacrifice them to the devil. And he just killed countless people like this, to the point where people knew what was going on, but they were so afraid of the powers that be in the power structure there that they were basically like allowing this to happen to these children. And eventually he was caught and he was put before a court, and he confessed to God, and like, he basically like apologized and cried and wept and like went through, and then like was executed. And
I did a TikTok short on this guy, so I'm basically an expert.
Okay, cool.
He was Illuminati.
I was going to say
I'm not an expert.
George Bataille wrote a book about this called The Confessions of Gilles de Rais, I believe it was called, that basically claims, and I think he makes a pretty good historical argument, that the entire myth of Bluebeard comes from all the castles, like specifically the castle where he was doing the sacrifices, but then all the other castles that were like under his lordship were the castles that then became the castles of Bluebeard. So Gilles de Rais was literally Bluebeard. And the legend was basically a legend that cropped up over time to get people to not be afraid. It was to get people to be afraid of going into these castles that these lords were sacrificing people in.
I was asking previously, like, when the best time to be a serial killer would, like, that's the situation. And here, the funny thing is, I was looking at a serial killer. I think it was in Haiti, who like he basically owned the whole island, and like it was all his plantation, but he had a castle. And people started going missing on the island. They eventually realized people would just disappear while they went down this fucking, like, dark and desolate road that only the castle was on for miles and miles and miles. But since he owned the island, everybody just let him do it for a long time. It's like that, dude, you combine that with, like, an H.H. Holmes, what is it? Is that what his name is? H.H. Holmes? That sounds like a meme, but...
The question is,
like, you get, like, a murder castle going with a labyrinth.
Question isn't what's the best time to get away with murder, it's what's the best income level. You have enough money, you'll get away with it.
And now there's like
year it is.
There's a spectrum on that too, dude. Horseshoe theory.
Yeah, if you go too far, or the eyes are on you all the time. If
well,
you're
the thing is,
you'll never get away with it. Elon Musk will never be able to kill.
I think you can be so fucking poor that you can always get away with it because nobody ever knows where you are or who you're dealing with at any time. They're not keeping track of any world in Mexico. So it's a matter of having all the money or none of the money.
In the United States,
right?
Like shit, in the Appalachians.
If you're like on the Appalachian Trail,
there's so many people that don't have
living in a
electricity.
hole, nobody's gonna find you.
There have been cases of hunters who just go out there and hunt people. That's what they do. They act like they're got their hunting gear on. They go to the place you hunt, and then when they see a person, they just kill them for a little bit.
Yeah, there was like a fucking woman that says she ran from guys on the Appalachian Trail that like shot at her and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
they
so
have
that's
regular banditry going on out there.
Murder
I remember
101. You heard it from us
I
first.
I remember reading up on a guy that was stabbed by a crazy homeless guy that was stalking people up on the Appalachian Trail. Happened a little while ago, and there's other stories of people disappearing. But shit, dude, that Appalachian Trail, man, ain't no joke.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, grizzly don't actually they ain't no grizzly. Maybe
Big
a couple.
No.
Maybe two
The
of them.
black
Panthers.
the
We got
river-
panthers.
Oh yeah.
Panthers.
Got cougars. Anyway, where the fuck was I with this Jean Grenier story?
Jean Grenier.
Then, under more intense questioning, he admitted to going into a house, grabbing a baby, and killing it. He said he consumed it. In another village, he killed and ate pieces from a little girl, and then repeated this in another place. He had done these things, he said, at the command of the Lord of the Forest, adding that his father often accompanied him, also in the form of a wolf. In addition, he'd seen his stepmother vomit up the paws of a dog and the finger of a child. This is fucked up shit. This is so fucked up. Since Grenier's accounts coincided with reports of missing children, his father and stepmother were questioned. They agreed that Jean believed himself to be a wolf, but denied that they had any involvement in his misdeeds. It sounds like a school shooting.
Yeah.
So
As
this, it seems like that he didn't like his parents, and he was trying to get them killed.
maybe
Is
it
what
does
it
sound.
seems like.
It sounds like a kid with serious mental problems. That's
Right. This seems like a kid who's from a broken home and wants his parents dead, so he's ratting them out to the cops.
So, as authorities continued to investigate, they discovered that some children who'd been attacked but had survived bore wounds that were just as Grenier had described. He had pointed to one girl who said she'd been attacked by a large dog and identified her wounds accurately, having been made by his team. One girl claimed to have witnessed his transformation. Grenier told his story again the next day in the presence of his father, without changing anything, but there was no evidence against the elder brother, so his case was dismissed. Where's that echo coming from? Is that Flame? Mute yourself.
Yes.
As for Jean,
Is it me?
the court believed him to be an imbecile who was hallucinating. He was just an idiot. And the
Just a
judge stated,
retard.
yeah, there's just a furry. It's fine. Your parents fucked this up, but it's not illegal. And the judge stated that the change of shape existed only in the brain of the insane in the membrane. In that case, because he was not responsible for his acts, he could not be punished. So he's sent to perpetual imprisonment in a monastery at Bordeaux. If he attempted to escape, he was warned. He executed. The monks had quite a time of it. They were to instruct Grenier in the Christian teachings, but he immediately loped around the courtyard on all fours and ate a pile of raw offal. It's terrible. Still, they kept him there and tried to do what they could for him. An official from the court visited him after 7 years and learned from Grenier that he still craved the taste of flesh, still entertained visits from his dark master. A few months later, at the age of 20, he died. So yeah, even in this story, there's no actual any kind of confirmation.
No cause of death.
He died from probably eating intestines raw and
So yeah,
He shat himself to death.
Huh?
At 20, dude, he died pretty damn young.
It happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Middle Ages, and he was eating raw organs.
But the French still eat raw meat. They have their steak tartare.
Yeah.
Maybe he started the
Oh
tradition.
yeah. Well, the French are just built.
These
different.
intestines he was eating were literally full of poop. You
What
understand?
happened? What happened was the fungus that makes you into a werewolf finally got to him.
It's true.
Maybe. But what's interesting about this one, in contrast to pretty much all the other cases, we have he was not tortured. He didn't confess for any particular reason, and nobody believed he was a werewolf. Whereas every other case, and I've got like 6 just in France in that time period. Every other case, they do get tortured, and everybody thinks they're a werewolf, and everybody's like, burn the werewolf, and then they burn them alive.
Sure. But even in this, do you? I don't think you can just write off the story about the Lord of the Forest.
No,
Like I think there's still
Agreed.
an interesting conversation to be had there, because that whole story is corroborated, and it is strange that a child would just like have all of this ready to go. Not that it would be implausible,
And-
but then, well, how do you feel
and
about
it's not the only
Go
time
on.
that that's come up in
Exactly.
history either.
How do you feel
It's
about Wad's
frequently coming up.
explanation that this kid was like a school shooter type who just wanted to get his parents in
Possible. My personal opinion is that some kind of cult existed at some point in their history, and there was remnants of it in stories, and then those stories are getting fed back to the serial killers by the Inquisitors as part of the lore of the Inquisitors of like sort of what devil worshippers do. It is based on something real, but that something real no longer existed at that time. But then possibly Jean Grenier, because this is actually one of the later cases. The other cases go back to as early as 1521, but Grenier was trialed in 1603. So possibly he had actually heard of some of these other cases, and he had heard the law in order to make up the stories that fit the law himself.
Now that we've debunked that crap, let's watch something totally real and legit. If you guys could watch what I'm sharing, Discord.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, this one.
Yes. The evil version of me. He can walk straight and
This is
wears a
good.
yarmulke.
Always stay straight.
Yeah.
You become a embryonic god in human form. At this point,
It's muted.
there is a
for
fork
me.
you have to take in the road in this particular
mind.
flavor of
It's
Satan
the
that I
volume.
was in.
I want you. Let me just catch you up here. This is my boy, Bill Schneblin. Bill Schneblin is Dracula. He's a werewolf. 99th degree Mason. Mormon. Loves Trump. Did I miss anything?
I
He
think
wears a yarmulke.
Where's the yarmulke?
Gnostic,
And he's a Wiccan.
Catholic,
He's a Wiccan.
He's a Wiccan.
And a
Druid.
yogic.
He was
forgot.
in with the Michael Bertio OTOA crowd, so
Bizarre.
he connects himself to basically everything.
I'm ready to just shit all over this guy. Kay's over here like, yeah, he was there.
I'm not saying you shouldn't shit on him. I'm just saying the reason why he's shit onable.
He was. I was there at that 99th degree Freemasonic
I
meeting.
saw him.
He had a pig
saw him.
roast. It sucked.
Look,
Yeah.
I did the companion's quest line. He was there.
Yeah.
I did the companion.
All right. Let's watch this thing.
It's
So,
a failed magician to grifter pipeline. Like
Exactly.
He just sort of
Exactly.
he was in some cult. He was in the fucking Michael Bertio cult, Voodoo Gnostic, Crowley, whatever, and then it didn't really work out. He didn't like get the GF or whatever, so he used his powers to become a grifter.
yeah.
That's
So
right.
his point here.
Evangelical.
Look,
which
look,
is
look,
Kind of
look, look, look,
grifter
look,
is he?
look,
Is
look.
he like, I'm going to expose the occult that I was part of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna wear a yarmulke. I'm gonna talk about Jesus and expose the occult. That's exactly what.
Yeah. So he's
That's
the
why he's on
Christian
Prophecy Club.
Piccolini of the occult.
Yeah. Okay.
Hell yeah.
So here's his thing: is when you get to the seventh degree Illuminati, I think if you get to the 7th degree of the Illuminati, then have to pick your fate, choose your own adventure. Even hear about that.
God in human form. At this point, there is a fork you have to take in the road in this particular flavor of Satanism that I was in. One way is to become a vampire, one way is to become a werewolf. I chose the way to become a vampire because I thought it was sexier somehow, and I'd heard that becoming a werewolf was extremely painful. And indeed it is. You can hear the bones crack. So I decided it'd be less painful to be a vampire. Anyway, true werewolves function as guards or assassins for the Brotherhood. A real werewolf is between 7 and 8 feet tall, weighs somewhere between 300 or 400 pounds. And
Wow.
they're extremely
Doesn't seem heavy enough to me.
formidable.
Should be about 9,000
I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
several true stories about werewolves. The first one was when we were out in Seattle in ministry. A child was brought to us for ministry.
Now, notice here, he's saying that they act as the sentinels and the assassins for the Illuminati. That's the point.
That part was real.
Imagine the pussy you would get if you were an 8-foot tall werewolf.
Well, okay. If you
That's
were,
part of
I
the
don't know.
program,
You got that big old
brother.
knotted cock. It's not going to work too well.
would you rather be
I
a?
like the knotted cock.
Would you rather be a
White women
99th
apparently.
degree Mason or a werewolf when you fuck Pussy Hogan?
A werewolf.
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 Okay.
Just makes more sense. He's going to like it more.
Brother.
He really been
HH
through
brother.
something. See, Satanists love to do their rituals outdoors at night if they possibly can. And they
Oh, yeah.
love doing them in places of corruption, in places of evil fetid smells. So they love dumps. They love landfills. And there was a particular place where they had these methane flames coming up, from the gases of the stuff decomposing on it. A very, very hellish place, both the flames at night and, of course, the stench. And so these two kids, one of whom we had sitting in front of us, were bicycling around after dark in this landfill, which wasn't a real smart thing to be doing, but you know how kids are. And anyway, they came upon this circle. And there were these people in black robes, and they were sacrificing something. They couldn't tell what it was, which is probably just as well. And they totally freaked. We got, black robes, flames, the whole bit. It was obviously something they'd seen enough TV and, this is something satanic, And so they both hightailed it. They had those little bikes that kids, I don't know if they still have them or not, but with the banana seats and all that. And all of a sudden, this kid said they heard something go boom, 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 coming behind them. And he looked around, and all he could see was this giant shape that was just towering over them with red, glaring eyes. And it was the strides this thing was taking were enormous. And this kid was in the lead, and his friend was behind him. And it was boom, boom, and the ground was literally shaking under this thing. And all of a sudden, he heard his little friend go, "Gah!" like that, And he looked back, and his friend wasn't there anymore. And this thing was still coming, boom, boom, boom. And the kid said that this giant hand, 5-fingered hand with talons on it that just wouldn't quit, came around and grabbed him by the chest. And he says, "Oh, Jesus!" And just like that, the thing, like he was scalded, this giant, whatever it was, let go, fell back like someone had kicked him in the teeth. And the kid pedaled home like the devil was after him, as you might imagine. His parents took him to the ER. He had to have like 30-some stitches. There was these marks like here, 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 and here on his little chest. He was like, I'd say 10 or 12 years old, I forget for sure. And of course, the police went up there. They found nothing. But, that's what you expect, because these folks are really good at cleaning up what they do. The other kid was never found. And he was probably lunch for that thing. And that's an example, one of the ways that they can function as watchdogs, so to speak, for the Brotherhood when they're having a ritual or do something else.
Okay, so first and foremost, true story or not true story?
True
Totally
story.
fucking made up.
True
I'm
story.
werewolf.
Complete bullshit, but I respect the grift.
Bullshit.
So much of occultism is performance, is creating like with Crowley specifically, it's theater. It's like a ritual is like a weird kind of theater. So I think the fact that it's completely fake doesn't necessarily mean that it's not esoteric or magical or anything.
Well,
It's definitely fake though.
Yeah.
He's like, this guy keeps referencing films a lot. Oh,
He loved Twilight. He read all of Twilight.
He loved Twilight.
And he liked that it was pro-life. He liked that, I don't know. He loved it. Is the point.
It promoted chastity.
Yeah.
That's another thing. But
Fucking dude's not.
What we see in the movies is what the current establishment wants us to associate with the occult. It's not technically what the occult is. But
Yeah,
it
no,
contains symbols.
real occultism and real magic stuff, it shouldn't be a performance. It shouldn't be theater. It should be you with your skulls, and you're sitting and you're meditating, and the skulls are doing shit, and nobody can see what you're doing.
It's hidden.
There's theater
It's
for
very
yourself.
calculated.
I mean, you're a hypnotist. Like, there's an element of you're psyching yourself into a state where
No.
something insane can happen. Like, you're getting
No.
yourself to a mental place.
Nah,
where
you read
can
too much
believe
Peter
in
Carroll, bro.
werewolf.
You read too much Anton LaVey.
I think that's actually.
Okay.
I think that's what you're doing, even if you're not even fucking aware of it. Like, you really believe in
agree.
this stuff in a way that I
Jonah,
maybe don't.
I want
But
to hear your
I can
counterpoint,
believe
Kate,
in it
because
by psyching
my
myself
understanding is the same as Jack's. So, and
That's
I
fair.
have read too much Peter Carroll and all those other guys. So, what's your counterpoint?
Okay, so I won't say that people don't do psychodramas, because people do psychodramas. But see, the technical definition of magic, as according to Barden, is that you are aligning your mind, your body, and your spirit into one direction. And that's not like the capital K magic. That's not the MAGICK. That's the MAGIC. So the MAGIC is when your microcosm is perfectly aligned, right? It's perfectly aligned in the task that you're doing. You're totally like zeroed in on the one thing that you're doing. Now, you could use performance as a tool to make that happen, but that's
literally
not
what
that's
you
not
said.
how you leverage.
Literally what that fucking
There
says.
is-
Just like, oh, but you have to understand all this
Yes,
other
I'm
bullshit.
agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you here. Okay.
Dog,
I'm agreeing with
you,
you.
whatever it is,
But
you're
what
gonna
would
say
be
some
an
shit,
example of
and
doing
Kay is
this
gonna
then?
fucking return with some fucking math equation, essentially. There's nothing you can do about
What's
it.
an example then? Okay, what would be
Hold
an
on,
example
Aussie, yes.
of doing this without the psychodrama? What would be an example?
So
Oh no, dude! Like
hold on
there's
a
two
sec. Hold on a
sides
sec.
of this. Okay,
Yeah, hold on a
okay.
sec. So
Go on,
so
go on.
we got you into your state, right? So you could use a psychodrama to get you into your state where you're perfectly focused on what you're doing. That's really not necessary. Like, when you drive your car, do you need to like psych yourself up to drive your car? Or do you just
Kinda.
get in your car and drive?
It
Dog, I
depends
don't even
on
want to leave my
the
house. I gotta psych myself
I
up to
need to
do
have at
anything
least
anymore.
5 beers
You
before I
kidding
can drive
me?
my car.
And what you're saying is like you should run before you can crawl. Here is kind of what
No,
you're
what
saying.
I'm saying is you don't need to psych yourself up to turn on your computer. You don't need to psych yourself up to leverage the
I
natural
gotta
laws
psych
of the
myself
universe.
up to get out of bed in the morning, dog.
too. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
they-
speak for yourself,
alright.
Kay. We're all functionally retarded here.
Let me come with my point. Let me come with
Sure,
my point
sure, go
because
ahead.
it's like so there's two sides. Both of you guys are right.
Mhm.
Now it depends on the situation, what kind of goal, what kind of magic that you're trying to do. Now, in my circles, there are like solo rituals that we will do that are performance that are supposed to be for ourselves. That we are not expecting other people to be around us when we do these things. Now, as well as there, um, like there are meditations and self-enhancing like boons that I guess that you could call them, that you do not do any ritual or anything like that. Like when I need an MK Ultra myself, I just take some acid and I just
Right.
do my meditations and shit.
Right.
Now, I like there both of you guys are right. So like the performance psychodrama is essential for everybody else. The sorcerer does not really need that for him, but if he's doing that in a group setting, the one thing that I'm told, even by my mentor, is that like shamans are supposed to be the greatest showman as well. You're supposed to be a showman. A sorcerer
yeah.
is a showman. This is
I'm
why
not
we
saying
say
there's no theater aspect. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong.
this is why
Is
we
this
say
some
in
Jordan
here.
Maxwell thing where we're doing the word sounds like the other word. Showman sounds like shaman.
Well, it is literally a
No,
showman
no,
thing.
not-
It's
not
showmanship
really,
to do shit like.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
what,
because
what's
like
the
there is the
so what,
chanting, there is the bringing everybody that is supposed to be involved in said ritual. There has to be some sort of level of participation, even with uh, the novice, the person that knows nothing.
And that's for the exoteric side of stuff. For the esoteric side of stuff, it's really all about the underlying mechanisms, like cause and effect. You really got to know, like, okay, you need to know that the mushroom is
This
the reason
conversation
why you're getting high.
sucks. It'll
Precise
never
application.
end. We'll
That's
never
what
talk
he
about
said.
werewolves
Let's move
again.
along
Sorry,
then, right?
chat. We'll
Right.
never, and I don't think
Yeah.
it's even a bad discussion. It is pretty good, but we will never talk about werewolves again.
Okay, let's get back to the
werewolf.
siren
We all get
bullshit.
introduced
So,
werewolves in
But
Hollywood
yeah, if
movies.
you want to be a werewolf, you got to align yourself with the werewolf forces. You don't
just
just
gotta
like
believe
pretend to
you're
be
a
a werewolf.
werewolf.
yeah, you gotta join the companions. I've done that.
You gotta join the companions.
The
Yeah, so
biggest
who's the
spell,
god of the companions?
Look,
the biggest spell cast
Yorvaster
on us
appeared to
was
me in a dream.
Mhm.
Let's
You're gonna
watch.
get the
Let's watch some
Oh,
more
good
drifting
call.
from
Yeah,
Chernobyl.
yeah. That's a good call.
Let's do that.
Watch the grid.
Important or sensitive, they're keeping a lookout because they have enormous.
Oh, that's actually something I wanted to mention before. He's talking about werewolves as sentinels for the Illuminati. You always hear about like these dogman werewolf stories. You hear
Tell
about them in like
anybody about our
the
little
Four
secret,
Corners area.
Kill your dog.
People are out and about, and they just run into these things out in the middle of nowhere. And one of the speculations, if I may, just walk on the wild side here, is that the Illuminati releases these bad boys from underground laboratories. Chimeras.
These are the
underground laboratories.
dogmen.
Oh,
the
yes.
dog boys.
Deep underground military bases.
Yes.
Mhm.
So when they're doing the Illuminati rituals at these bases, they release the hounds, you know, to keep all the you know riffraff at bay, keep them away, dude. Now, when you hear about like you know even the Beast of Gévaudan, man, things that inspired fear. Think about the Beast of Bray Road, Michigan Dogman, all of these things. Like I don't know, you just never
The
know,
fucking
dude.
wolf that got blasted with 30
They're out there
fucking Sherman
guarding
Ranch. Yeah,
guarding the
weird.
Illuminati rituals. Don't get too close, keeping it from you. I say we all go out there. Just, I don't know, go out there and party, invade the rituals, invade Bohemian Grove,
like
turn into
Elden
Werewolves.
Ring, like
Right.
Elden Ring, we just
I don't
like glow red and we're
I don't
just
know what
like
I'm
all
talking
up in
about
shit.
anymore. Let's watch the
Oh
video.
yeah.
Alright, so, can we talk about cryptids? If anyone has anything to say about Dogman and their relationship to werewolves.
Well, I got one more thing. The fucking Antichrist Dajjal will be a reptilian shapeshifter. Like one of the first videos about that talks about the children of Atum being dogmen and them breeding with humans. And
Talking about like
that this is,
cynocephaly, pretty much, right?
Yeah, the cynocephaly thing. Yeah.
and like Anubis and like certain gods being dog faced. Basically, like reptilians and
Yes.
there's no reason to really separate reptilians from wolfmen as like it's all the same.
No,
same
I hear that brought up in the Islamic aversion to dogs relating to blood counter signals.
So, okay, the creation of the dog. So when Adam was formed into a mound of clay, Satan came over and was like, "Oh, this guy's just made of mud," and spat on him. Then Gabriel came down with a trowel and took the piece of clay that had the spit
Cooper
of
scooped it
Satan
up.
on it, scooped it up, and God turned that piece into the first dog.
Love that book.
This explains why dog eyes have like very human characteristics and they're very loyal to humans is because we have a shared biological heritage but they're also very vicious
That's
and
dope.
wild. Yeah.
I also
yeah,
want to bring this up real quick. Speaking of things that sound similar, we were talking about that a second ago. Cynocephaly, son of Samphily. I don't know. Just think about it. Just consider it. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, so to answer Aussie's request for an example, in my own experience, somebody showed up at where I was working and he didn't really need to be there. He was just hanging around because his girlfriend worked there, and she's supposed to be doing her work, not talking to her boyfriend. And she's not going to listen to me when I tell her as her boss that you got to do your work and not talk to your boyfriend. Because,
dumb bitch.
well, anyways,
Go on.
there's a dynamic going on. So,
I don't care
anyways,
about
what I do is I just pop out in the back. I take out my little skull bones on my necklace, and I just mutter the incantation to summon the ghosts. And then he starts to get really fucking sick and has a terrible headache and decides, he tells
hell's
his
this have
girlfriend
to do with
he's
it?
going to go home.
Got wolf bones? He's bragging about wolf bones.
No, it's got human bones. It's
Oh.
human bones. But yeah,
You
so
eat the
no,
wolf bone. You snort the wolf bone.
yeah,
Smoke
that's
them off
right. You snort
tinfoil?
those.
I'm not sure.
No tinfoil.
Goof it.
All right.
So, anyways, yeah, you just chant the incantation. Nobody sees it. Nobody knows what you're doing, and he gets a headache and feels sick and feels stomach upset, and he says, "I gotta go."
We're
So
gonna
your
watch more Bill
argument,
Schneblin.
your argument is that that's
full-on
not
Gnostic
mediated
art
by
game.
the psyche in any way. That's not mediated by like a
Who gives a
psychological
shit about
experience.
that?
Just
No, all it is me invoking some ghosts to harm somebody using the incantation that they're bound by.
To make sure that the wheels of
Okay.
capitalism are
This is
I'll be
how
careful
gang
not to
stalkers
piss you
operate.
off, Kay.
Yeah, I need to be
Oh,
nice.
you're fine.
Alright.
You're good. You're good.
Let's watch this.
I'm the one who's gonna fucking curse.
Alexa,
Watch it. Let's
Okay,
watch. Hold
please
on,
do.
everyone, shut up.
Good senses of smell. The other thing is that they're assassins. They can kill somebody and, oh, it's a wild animal attack, because that's what it looks like. It looks like someone was mauled by a grizzly bear, because they can literally rip the head off somebody as easy as you would pull apart a wishbone. The other thing that happened was we had a lady come to us for ministry, sweet little woman. Her husband was, or ex-husband, I should say, was a Mormon bishop who lived right up the mountain from where we lived. This is so funny. He lived on Cougar Mountain. And this is near Issaquah, which is a suburb of Seattle.
Cougar Mountain sounds
And,
alright. I kind of want to go
She
there.
told us
Get
that
jumped.
she felt she
We,
needed
we
deliverance.
love cougars.
I
And
can't
Werewolf
control
from
my
she was a
horny
Christian.
level.
And I said, well, why is that? And she says, well, for one thing, my ex-husband's a Mormon.
Ew.
But for another thing, the last time we had sex, he had dragged me down the stairs by my feet to the basement of our home, pushed a door, a button, and a secret part of the basement opened up. There was this satanic altar in there.
Yeah.
There were all these
Mormonism.
people in there. He threw on the altar. They tied her up, and he turned right before our eyes into a werewolf. Ripped. He was, by the way, this guy was an airline pilot by profession. So just think, next time you're flying, your pilot might be a werewolf. Anyway, and he proceeded to rape her as a werewolf, and she had the scars to prove it. And she felt that because of something that profoundly evil, she needed deliverance more so than just from being married to some typical Mormon guy. And she lived in mortal fear of this guy. In fact, she wouldn't come. We were working out of Saints Alive Ministry at that time, Saints Alive in
She
Jesus.
wouldn't come.
And at that time, we had a little
She
parsonage
should have just come.
right at the foot of this Cougar Mountain. And she wouldn't even come that near. We had to go to a church in Redmond, Washington, which is like probably 10, 15 miles from there, in order to minister to her. She wouldn't get that because she was so terrified of this ex-husband. And I could see why. Now, this happened to my dear wife and her sister. We just moved to this very same place in 1987. And I was going to become a full-time minister with this. It was an evangelistic organization to witness to Mormons. And I had gone to a conference in Utah to speak. And so my wife and her sister were there. And we were only in that building a couple of months, and they hadn't even bothered to put a lock on the door because it was out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was like out in the country, so there was no lock. And we were living in this split-level house. And down below us was another guy that worked in the ministry. And so all of a sudden, the first night I was gone, naturally I was gone, they heard this outside. And they started praying, what's going on, and my wife ran down the stairs to lock, the door wouldn't lock. And so they did the thing like you see in the movies, they rammed a chair into the door, just to try and keep it shut. And they looked out the living room window, and there it was. looking at them back. And this is from a second-story window. And it was a werewolf, just like you saw in that picture. It was like, 7 or 8 feet tall, big, looks like, Arnold Schwarzenegger with steroids and fur. And just the growl shook the house.
Steroids.
And they were praying and they were pleading the blood. This thing could not cross the blood. It could not, even though the house was totally defenseless in the natural, it could not cross the blood of the lamb. It could not get in that house. And it was pacing back like a caged animal, which was good because we got footprints.
What happens if you
And
shoot one of
the foot was this big.
Nothing.
And there was like 3 balls here the size of softballs, 1 ball here. Just
3
like
balls and 1
super
ball.
elongated wolf print.
Not 2 balls and
And
1
people
cane.
asked me, well, do you think that's what Bigfoot is? No,
2-ball
Bigfoot's
cane.
something else. But
If we
I think
get
maybe
all
sometimes
3
that
balls,
if
I
these
can
things are
summon the
sighted
wolf dragon.
in the woods or whatever, it might be mistaken for a Bigfoot because they're about the same size. But Zion, and I'm not an authority on Bigfoot. Like I am about
Zionist
werewolves
and
and
big.
vampires,
Oh
but
man,
Zion
how can I
said that Bigfoot,
saying
basically they have
He's doing the
5
bit. Hold
toes,
up, you
just
guys
like
gotta
an ape.
Easter egg. Blood found. Sometimes I find. Here's the thing: you do enough drugs, you become schizo enough, you realize that the true message of the video actually in captions, not in what they say. The AI is telling us what's true.
Cross the blood. It could not, even though the house was and it was the foot with elongated wolf print. Not an authority on Bigfoot like I am about werewolves and vampires, but as I understand that Bigfoot.
We have it. Zionist Bigfoot.
Zionist Bigfoot.
We have proven it again that Bigfoot is a Zionist who is kidnapping children to take them into underground bases, stealing skins. Children.
You think Bigfoot got to go to Epstein's Island?
Oh,
He's the
yeah.
main offender, primary offender, public enemy number 1.
But then
Do
how
they
does
have
that
5?
work with how can the Order of Nine Angles be werewolves if the werewolves are Zionists?
Because everyone's a Zionist behind the scenes.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, the Order of Nine Angles are also Zionists. Fuck, you got me.
They're anti-Magian. Don't get it twisted.
Kay, do you want to talk about your fucking werewolf Order of Nine Angles take? Like that was a really good take, and I don't want to.
I don't even remember what we discussed, bro.
I
So
will steal it from you then. Fuck. Okay, so the Order of Nine Angles takes people into the woods and basically indoctrinates people to go into the woods and become feral over time. And
Right.
basically, like the same thing. You go ahead, Kay.
Oh yeah. So I don't know if this is the opportune time, but we're here now. So yeah. So for the first level of getting into the Order 9 Angles, and they got 7 levels. The first level you got to do what they call an insight roll, which is when you become a person that is the opposite of what you were for 6 months. So if you're a criminal, you got to, for example, try and become like a police officer, right? Or if you're a police officer, you got to become a burglar, right? You got to do something that's completely contrary to your character and really get into that character to do what they call an insight roll. And you must do this for a minimum of 6 months in the first
Break down your
degree.
personality.
To break down your personality, right? And then another thing after you do that is you also have to train to run like so many miles or whatever, or bicycle so many miles in a set amount of time and carry a pack with X amount of weight in it, right? And then in addition to that, you have to go into the woods and live in the woods for a period of time and only eat like a specific diet that's related to like the climate you're in. And you're supposed to ideally stay in a cave. And you're also supposed to like hunt small animals. So as we know with hogs, well, what's a hog? It's a domestic pig that has been living in the wild, and it has grown tusks and fur as a result of living in the wild. There are epigenetic changes that take place, and the pig goes from being like relatively, pink and rosy and no tusks to having like thick brown fur and tusks. So yeah, you turn in a person kind of feral after going against their original program. And yeah, that's the first level. Now I forget what the second level is, but the third level is you got to form a little terrorist cell, a covert occult organization, and then you got to do ritual murder.
Gotcha.
Right.
Well, it's very similar to the Skinwalker legend. Now, in most
You gotta kill
stories,
someone.
you have to kill a family member. You have to consume a piece of it, like someone who's very close to you. It's always like that. It's always,
Things
and
like drink the
it really is.
water.
It's shattering your perception of the world. Like, I think in that way you can compare it to a lot of left-hand path religious ideas. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, with the Order of Nine Angles, they have a specific like program for what they call the testing of opfers. So you determine who is a good candidate for sacrifice, and one of the approaches to testing opfers is you select somebody who's like a Satanist and they express interest in becoming a member of your organization, and so you induct them. But then they prove themselves to be not evil enough and not sophisticated enough. So then they become a sacrifice and are used to become a Baphomet, basically a ghost that's enslaved to the dark gods of the cult, and then the priest of the cult will be able to control those ghosts using an artifact that was used in the murder. So usually they keep the shroud, because the Order of Nine Angles, they don't keep the bodies because they're more covert. Instead, they keep the shroud that they use in the murder. So they cover the person's head, and the shroud has a special sigil drawn on it, and the sigil is the sigil of the dark god that the cult is using for that particular ritual. And so yeah, then you trap the soul of the murder victim in the shroud, or rather, the shroud is a tool to send the soul of the murder victim to the specific star god, and then that murder victim's soul can be used as a servant for the cult leader, and he can basically conjure up that ghost through the shroud to send it to do little missions.
Sharon Tate supposedly still haunts the house where she was murdered, and I think Sharon Tate, there's the rumors that she was a witch. So this could be an example of that she was murdered because she had failed the cult in some sort of way, failed the coven in some sort of a way. So she was an eligible sacrifice because she'd been indoctrinated into Satanism, but had proven herself not worthy. Then she would be an acceptable sacrifice. And then the Nine Inch Nails album, this I forget which one it was, the Downward Spiral. They recorded it in the recording studio at the house where she was murdered, that has the word piggy on the door, etc. And there are stories about, I think, both Marilyn Manson and Trent Reznor encountering the spirit while they were doing late night sessions recording of this album, and also Marilyn Manson's first album. And it would make sense. I mean, if we just read into this a little more, that maybe they were trying to summon this spirit. Maybe this is a spirit that they somehow, that coven now controls because they murdered her. So I don't know. This is just speculating and reading into what the Order of Nine Angles is stating. But Order of Nine Angles gives us a guide for how one of these cults could be functioning and sacrificing people and manipulating spirits.
We found out last night, Charles Manson called his homies Lycans. You're my Lycan, and it means like you're like kin. You're like kin to me. And that's one thing he would use that connects the whole werewolf thing to it. And nobody threw them outside into the desert with a bunch of women and drugs quite like Charles Manson. That guy definitely went feral. And that's the thing about Manson, is like he didn't have to go to the desert to become feral. You could put him in a single concrete room, he'd go feral. That's the beauty of Manson. Didn't matter where he was always everywhere all the time.
Manson was a clear Scientologist. He reached the final level of Scientology where you're clear of your thetans. And the Process Church is the cult that is typically accused of being behind the Manson murders and certain conspiracy theories, also being behind the Son of Sam murders. And the Process Church, in their more recent incarnation, has become an animal rights organization that rescues animals. So that would tie right back into the dogs. And
wasn't their leader like murdered by one of the? It wasn't their leader one of the woman? Didn't she get like mauled by one of the German shepherds they rescue and like dead that way?
That would be epic. I hope so. Like that's the kind of thing that would make the story so much better. I don't know that happened, but that sounds like something that would happen. But Day Grimston, the leader of the Process Church, looks almost uncannily like similar to Charles Manson. And at one point, Charles Manson was questioned about the Process Church and questioned about Day Grimston, and he said, "Oh, I'm him. Like we're the same. Me and him are the same." And one of his like psycho rambles that he, to him and De Grimson were the same being. And so there's a lot of weird. Also, they published him at one point. There's a lot of weird.
Did y'all know that Charles Manson did have children?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had several.
Yeah, he has like a shitload of kids. Yeah, he was saying it in the interview. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is, in the interview that was brought up, it's like, how do you feel about your kids? And he immediately like diverted the topic. Oh, they're all my children. And it's like, and he's literally talking about everybody. Like he's saying he's everywhere, he's everyone, he's a reflection of you. But it's like he clearly was not the guy to be raising kids.
No.
Clearly. Let's finish this Bill Schneblin thing. I got one more timestamp on this, and then I got one more article. Wrap it up. What is it? What is it? There.
5-fingered big toes and 5-fingered lion foots.
No.
Very interesting that the Mormon aspect into all this, because I could like talk about that. It's
Yeah, there's no
weird.
time to go into
Yeah.
the Mormon connection
Yeah.
with the CIA and Bigfoot and Satanism.
I got a shitload of
The
Mormon
lady I respect
artifacts,
very
and I
much
don't know
told me
what
about
they do.
this. She said that a couple of deacons in a church in Southern California got to talking to this big biker, Hell's Angel. And you probably know most Hell's Angels are Satanists, duh. Anyway, and that might be the nicest thing that they are. Anyhow, and they actually led this guy to the Lord. And they said, well, with all the stuff you've been into, all the fornicating and adultery and dope and whatever, and well, I also murdered 8 guys. Well, maybe you need to, get some deliverance, and then we'll turn you over to the sheriff. So they said, well, we got this little old lady in our church, and she's mighty in the Lord, and she'll help us do deliverance on you. So they took him to this little old lady. She had this little cottage out in the edge of town. And they sat him on the nice little chintz sofa, which kind of creaked under his weight. I mean, this guy was huge, like 250 pounds, and it was all muscle, and they said, would you help us? They explained, we led this guy to the Lord, but he's done all this stuff, and we think he needs some deliverance, and then we'll turn him over to the sheriff. And he's pretty willing to go to the sheriff and get his punishment for all of his crimes, And he said, okay. And so the first thing these guys do is we command you in the name of Jesus, any demon that's inside of you to manifest. Big no-no. Major no-no. Well, anyhow, this guy was, and he starts turning into a werewolf, like literally in 60 seconds. He hulks out. And all of a sudden, there's this 8-foot werewolf standing in this woman's living room. And these guys just go, ah! And they literally jump out the window. They're so terrified. And this little old 90-pound, 80-year-old lady is sitting there in a rocking chair.
Loves it. He thinks
looking
it's the
at
best
this
thing
giant werewolf, like that. And she goes, Satan, you stop that in the name of Jesus.
Wearing a little.
And that fast, there's this like 3/4 naked giant biker sitting on the sofa again.
He is.
But he was so freaked out, he ran out the door and was never seen again.
He's also a Jew compared to
That's
all the other things
supposedly
he
a true
is. He's
story.
all
I
the
could
things.
tell. Yeah.
And I
But
just
he's
think
not
that
actually
indicates
Jewish.
as bizarre
Yeah.
and as
You
scary
couldn't tell.
as these things sound,
He looks like
and
an
as
old
scary
like,
as they might appear to be
eye
in the
doctor had.
movies. It doesn't take a silver bullet to stop
Maybe
a
it's just the way
werewolf.
he's dressed.
It just takes the name, which is above every other name. So I don't want to put fear in your heart about this. The only thing I want you to be fearful of is what's going on when our young people start
What are those hand
idolizing
signals?
these things. Start having
Naughty.
posters of them. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. There's,
This is where he starts
you can go online
rambling
now
about
and you can
Twilight
get
again, dude.
shower
Oh
curtains
my god.
with Edward Cullen, the teenage vampire.
Oh,
from Twilight
please, dude. I just
giant,
don't even
like
at this point.
this big.
Dude's
Why does he like
nuts.
Twilight? Why does he like Twilight?
He loved it. He read all of it, and he thought it was mostly good, except there should be less Draculas in it.
Wow.
He literally says it's pro-life and it's about chastity, so it's
Holy
mostly good.
shit.
But then a lot of it's
Well,
true also.
no,
It's true on top of being
He's a
good.
very good public speaker. He's got the hand signals down. He's acting everything out. He's making the sounds like
He does Ultimate Warrior
stand-up
impressions.
comedian.
He does the Ultimate Warrior.
His body language conveys
Pussy
like
Hogan.
he seems
Like
like
a
he's not the best
professional.
liar though. I mean, he's doing his best, but he's not the best liar.
No, I disagree. He's a very good liar. The reason it's obvious he's lying is because of the content of the lies.
I think
Like,
they're
it's
lies
just
for
ridiculous.
people. These
But
are
he's-
lies, but these are lies tailor-made for people who are eager to believe this shit.
Right.
So you just have to know your
Yeah,
audience.
which I'm
it's
not.
so much. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
mean, I'm
but
sure,
his
like, yeah,
delivery
right.
is on point.
Sure the Mormons
His
would believe
delivery is
this,
on
yeah.
point. He doesn't miss a beat. He does not look like he's not giving telltale signs that he's making it up.
He's not touching his nose. No.
I buy David Icke significantly more than him, but
yeah, I like David Icke more than him. Yeah, for sure.
but David Icke also I think believes his shit more than him. In a weird
Yes.
kind of way.
I like
Definitely.
Because David
more
Icke's
than
actually
David
brought forward
Icke,
like the
'cause
ritualistic
David Icke's
abuse shit
actually-
I
before.
personally do
Yes,
not have a
really.
favorite schizophrenic grifter, but that's
Well,
just me.
here's the thing about David Icke. David Icke is literally banned from Australia for anti-Semitism. That's funny as fuck. That's
is.
so goddamn
funny.
cool. He's banned from a continent, and for a guy who doesn't even talk about Jews, really, he just like happened to mention a couple, and he's banned
He's
from a
criticized
continent.
Israel. That's
Yeah, who
You're
has?
not
a red
allowed to
flag.
criticize
And I think he
Israel.
just threw it in there. I think he just threw it in there with other stuff. Like, you know how conspiracy
Yeah.
theorists, they'll just talk
Oh.
about like 500 things. at
In the
once.
early
It's
days,
like,
we didn't
"And
know
I'm
we were
against
doing
genetic
anything wrong."
modification, and I'm against this and that, and they're doing this with this. And I think he probably just threw it in there
hard.
without
Look, dude.
thinking about it. It's like,
went
and the
fucking hard
Israeli-Palestine
on this,
conflict.
He went hard on the fucking like when he
You
did
got-
the whole thing. He's like, these are Rothschild Zionists.
You gotta
Rothschild
understand though. You gotta
Zionists.
understand though, dude. Back in the day, Ernst Zundel was just on YouTube. It was just another
Right.
thing on YouTube.
Right.
He still is, dude.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, maybe it is, but I don't know where to find it on YouTube. It doesn't matter.
Have
My
you-
point isn't.
Have you guys seen that there's a journalist who debunks Rothschild conspiracy theories, and he's a Rothschild?
Oh my.
Imagine that.
Credulity.
He's just going around going, like, my family is not super rich, and we do not control the world. We do not control the media.
My favorite are
I'm
like
going to
the.
set out and prove that me, Mr. Rothschild.
I like the
You'd be
black
better off
sheep.
hiring an intern.
The black sheep of the Illuminati family who's like smoking crack, his tattoos on their face, and they're like, "Yeah, my dad Tom Hanks definitely raped me in the Illuminati." That shit's way better. I love when that happens.
You know about Chet Hanks?
Yeah.
Chet Hanks, yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
White-
There's a few of
Did he
those
do the
Get
guys.
fucking
him on
White
the
Boy
stream.
Summer video? Yeah, we should get Chet Hanks on the stream.
Wow, maybe.
That'd be sick.
Get him. Hunter Biden can come.
Only if he brings the coke.
There's some dude claiming to be like a Rothschild, like great grandkid who's like a reptilian alien. Get him
It's
on.
me. I'm an amphibian.
He's the
I want to
amphibian
do.
mod.
I want to do one more werewolf case, and I'm
Does
skipping a few
wheelchair
here, but they
rise
really
from
are
the
kind of
bottom?
all the same story. Like they were a werewolf, they had a pact with Satan, church killed them. Simple as.
Yeah.
And there is a bunch of gruesome
Magic
details
salve.
that I would love to share with you, but it's not important. This article needs to be read. Now, one thing that's very interesting about this is like one of the later. This is like what is it? What fuck year? 1863. Around then, all of this goes down.
Okay.
So
Holy
this
shit,
is
that's pretty
way
recent
past
for-
all of the 1600s.
Yeah.
So Manuel Blanco Rosa Santa was Spain's first recorded serial killer. 1853, he admitted to 13 murders, but claimed he was not responsible because he was suffering from a curse that caused him to turn into a. Although this defense was rejected at trial, Queen Isabella II commuted his death sentence to allow doctors to investigate the claim as an example of clinical lycanthropy. Blanco has become part of Spanish folk, Werewolf of Alaries. And he was also the tallow man because he would use his victim's fat to make soap.
Beautiful.
Manuel Blanco Rosa Santa, Roma Santa, was born on 18th of November, 1809 in Reguero, Escos, Orense province. I have no idea, dude. One of 5 children born to Miguel Blanco and Maria Roma Santa. Originally thought to be female, he was named Manuela. raised as a girl until the age of
Oh,
6 when
no.
a doctor reassigned his sex.
What the fuck? What
What
does
the
that mean?
fuck does that mean? I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna take one guess here. I'm gonna go up to bat. Micropenis.
Okay, yeah, probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Hate to see it.
I've actually heard about this thing. So there's this genetic mutation in the Dominican Republic, and there are these boys that are born, and at the time of nascence, they appear to be female, but throughout, by the time they reach puberty, when they go through puberty, their testicles descend and they develop into a functional male. It's like a mutation, and there's like some word
But
for them
how
in
big is their
Spanish.
cock? I hate to say it like
I'm
that,
gonna
but I
guess-
need to know. Like, is it normal size or is it like a
I
clit?
didn't look into the details, bro. I was not that intrigued. I was just like, that's fucking weird. But yeah, no, they get to be girls until their puberty, and then they are raised as men thereafter, and it's some kind of mutation.
Lucky for them.
Character in an anime I'm reading this or manga I'm reading this like.
Yeah.
Mod, what do you think?
What? What do I think? It's just, you know, that when humans are forming in the
Oh, but yeah, but are you saying micropenis or not? Is my
Yeah, I'm gonna go
I'd
with the
say
act-
micropenis.
Yeah.
They'd give them a special legal status as a hermaphrodite in medieval law.
And like I
So that
said,
he wouldn't-
the weird sexual perversions and all of that is always a part of these cases. And I think there's something similar to like the way people in power today use blackmail against everybody. I think that happens on every level. It's not just happening on the Epstein level. It's happening in every stupid little society, every level.
Right, and his lunacy, this particular case, his lunacy would be contributed to a hormone imbalance of some kind.
This dude was also, he was between 4'6" and 4'11", tender looking.
Oh,
he was a
no.
dressmaker.
Yeah, he's just like me.
What else we got?
Sounds like a problem.
Alright, so here's his story about how he turned into a werewolf. The first time I transformed, I was in the mountains of Kuso. I came across 2 ferocious-looking wolves, suddenly fell to the ground and began to feel convulsions. I rolled over 3 times, and a few seconds later, I was a wolf. I was out marauding with the other 2 for 5 days until I returned to my own body, one you see before you today, Your Honor. The other 2 wolves came with me, who I thought were also wolves, changed into human form. They were from Valencia. One was called Antonio, and the other, Don Gennaro. They too
Tony.
were cursed. We attacked and ate a number of people because we were hungry. That's how it happened. Apparently,
I'm thinking that the whole wolf thing is a manifestation of like the will to have an erection that just he couldn't quite get. So he just like
Right.
had
sound
the
like
whole
that.
initiation, he turns into a wolf and then he just murders people, but he thinks he's like doing it because he's a fucking wolf.
Well, it's the same
So he
thing
thinks
as
his owner has-
you're like Dahmer, who like couldn't come unless he was like feeling intestines. It's like
Right.
he was so impotent sexually. That was his outlet.
Or
Oh,
giant
that's fucked up.
hairy Arab women.
So
Same
apparently, based on phrenology, the report accused him of inventing his.
Based on
So they
phrenology.
beat the shit out of him.
They measured his skull, and they were like, "Yeah, this dude's
Is someone taking a
fucking
piss?
making
What's
shit
going
up."
on?
Yeah,
I
let
heard a
him do it.
noise.
Let him
Someone
be.
someone's taking a piss.
You're muted, Aussie. Aussie's.
Ozzy lost his voice.
Sounded like someone was pissing. Like I don't know who
Someone
it
was probably
Yeah, they
pissing.
were.
Dude, you're giving him stage fright. They had to stop and hold it.
Just
So yeah, this dude, definite micropenis werewolf. Micropenis caused the werewolfery because he was. And the thing is, in the article, they're saying like all the townspeople were calling him gay. Like that's a big reason he was so pissed off. Let me see if I can find that. I didn't want to read the whole damn thing, but they do
Yeah,
be
but
calling this
incel
dude gay
to-
as hell.
The problem is he couldn't
Incel
even
to werewolf pipeline.
Werewolf fight.
So he became friendly with the women of the village, which led to the men to consider him effeminate. Being like, dog, you gay.
Gay.
Yeah, that checks out.
He couldn't even be gay though. Like he couldn't even be gay. Like his dick was too small. It's just over. It's over.
It ain't gonna
This
work.
thing- they
Hey,
call
you
it a
can't be the
bottom, bro. Yeah,
Yeah, he can't be the top. He can be the bottom.
it works better because he's feminine.
Yeah.
And covered in hair, so there's more texture on the way in.
There you go.
I got a couple more videos, very short videos.
Got some grip to it.
All
Had
right,
enough,
so
have you, Yakov?
I
Getting
have
tired.
a real werewolf transformation. We're gonna use this to see what we think.
Ooh. Oh, this one.
Incredible.
That's how it looks in real life.
Yeah, this is
That's
an
how it looks.
actual fucking. This is Bill Schneblin. He got into an Illuminati ritual, got the tape, he snuck it out of Bohemian Grove. This is the real deal, folks.
Yeah.
Real.
It's exactly how it looks
All
in
right.
real life.
Now, after they captured the beast, they found his body and something.
Wahala for this Nigeria how we deal. For inside this Nigeria. Humble over. See, just imagine. Stay house, you know what kind of night, you know we
That's just one of them dog boys from the underground base.
This is taken in Nigeria of one of those dog boys from the base.
For this Nigeria how we deal. For
Real.
inside this
Send me this video. I gotta show my fucking
Oh,
parents this shit.
I'll be honest with this. Now, this I feel like there's lots of shit debunking this, saying this is just some prop, like I expect. You ever
I don't know.
consider that
It
maybe
looks
they
like-
just say that shit, and this is actually a
don't know.
dog boy?
Yeah, because it looks gross. Like
I
it
think
looks.
it
I wouldn't
is.
want to touch it. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to
It's
say that this is
Nigeria.
the real one.
If I was
Yeah.
to guess where real dog boys would be, it'd be like Nigerian black magic. That's what we're
Yeah.
seeing. Time.
Nigerians got some crazy black magic stuff.
It's true. I think we've gone over everything that I need to go over. At this point, I just be deadpan. So,
Well,
yeah.
concluding remarks then.
K, boot up chicken wing song.
All right, one sec.
Well, yeah, and boot up chicken wing song. The thing is, I want to make it clear that like these theories about like MK Ultra conspiracies, mind control, assassins, and sex slaves and stuff. It really does sound a lot like these old stories of like going out into the woods and you find this coven that's a curse on you. From all of the stories, the way it's presented, all of this, the mind control stuff, it's always presented as a cult. That's why you have all of these groups, these death cults, essentially, fucking the world up at the behest of the dark magician power. I wouldn't put it past them to be putting some sort of spell, even mind control ritual, on these people to make them believe that they are something they are not in order to carry out. I don't think there's an actual change. For all the things we've read, there's very few things that actually referred to real changes.
Hey, Matt's here.
I think it's mental. I do think you can basically gaslight somebody into that, gang stalk their ass until they're a wolf.
You can just hypnotize them to believe that they're an animal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, in addition to that, on a bigger scale, I think things like, I mean, fuck, this is a whole fucking rabbit hole just for concluding, but something like the internet can be seen as that wilderness that people are wandering into and being transformed into werewolves by that, you know, there are certain sort of mechanisms that people encounter on here, especially if they're alienated, where they'll fall into a kind of a coven and be indoctrinated and manipulated and basically transformed into
Framing it as a cult gives you all kinds of plausible deniability, because you know it wasn't the government, it wasn't a corporation, it was just a bunch of loonies.
Right.
Right.
Just a bunch of guys.
Right.
There's a bunch
hey,
of
Matt.
retards in the woods. The government has nothing to do with it. Yeah, like how they want to present it.
Just a bunch of dudes
Yeah,
hanging
chicken
out.
wang.
Just a bunch of dudes.
This is the new song, dude. I don't know where it's from, what stupid thing I'm referencing. I just love this song, dude. I want everyone to know that you were my homies. Bang. So Matt, what are you up to, dude? While we're leaving. We're done.
What?
We're done. We're finished. What do you have to say to the people?
Oh, God. Sorry, hold on. Let me turn this down. I can't hear you at all. Sorry.
I'm about to close the stream, dude. You want that to be your last words to the people?
Oh,
sorry.
I will just say, beware the frogmen.
Don't let the Loveland frogmen grab your balls.
What do you do to you?
I've already grabbed Matt's balls.
The fragmen, the frag grenade men. I don't know.
Beware the frogmen.
They were very slimy.